Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
How the hell are you?
Pete is above ground and out of the bunker.
He's out of the bunker tonight. What is that background? That's
nature.
Real, or is that,
it's nature.
Is that actual nature?
That is actual nature. There was a deer out there just a few hours ago.
You couldn't schedule it?
No, they're skittish. They're not like Long Island deer. They just walk up to you.
Ask for a smoke.
Yeah, you got a sandwich or a smoke or something.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, September 22nd, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you, and with me, as always, is none other than Mr. RadioPete. Say hello, RadioPete.
Hello, RadioPete.
How the hell are you tonight?
I'm okay. I just hit a button and I didn't know what happened there.
What happened? Anything bad?
I made the screen all big.
Oh, that's bad. I hate when that happens.
Stupid technology.
So,
I don't need to see my face any larger.
Bigger than
it already is.
Gotcha. Harry Lug Nutz is on location tonight, so he will not be joining us. He will be back next week, but he may be remoting in via text about certain picks later in the Beaten by the Coin segment.
Is he at the Poke Bowl place?
He's at
getting
the
dinner like I was.
He's at the Poke Bowl place, and and then he'll be on his way back in the car.
Right.
I don't think your wife is driving though.
Probably not. Probably not. Although my sister yesterday just returned from some time out in Colorado.
There you
visiting my nephew, her son, who lives out there.
I was going to say, was she visiting Harry Lug Nutz?
Yeah.
No.
I wouldn't wish that on either of them. But she went out for 4 or 5 days, and they went to Red Rocks, and
nice. Red Rocks is beautiful.
Hiked around and did a lot of stuff, and she hasn't. He moved out there about 4 years ago, so she hasn't seen him. Was going to go out last year, but the pandemic or something it's put the kibosh on that. So, it's tough. You don't see your child for nearly half a decade. So
it's crazy.
Very nice trip, and had a good time.
Well, Harry's actually in New Jersey right now. He's visiting his brand new nephew. There's a little family gathering going on this evening, which is why he was unable to attend.
Priorities,
you got your priorities, but he moved out to Denver. Oh geez, he's coming up on 30 years. I think next spring or summer next year it'll be 29 years. He'll be out in Colorado.
Now, did he throw a dart and it landed in Denver, or
no? He actually moved out there with how do you say it?
His cat,
a girl.
Oh, okay.
A girl at the time, and then he.
Now she's a man. Is that what you're saying?
She was a girl at the time. No, at the time he moved out there with a girl, and then she, not too long after, left, and he stayed because he loved it so much.
Oh.
So,
okay.
And there you go, and the rest is history. He's been out there. He's been out there longer than he lived in Jersey. So he's more Coloradian. Is that what you say? Colorado.
Sure. Coloradan.
Denverite.
Colorado. It's not Colorado. It's Colorado, right?
Colorado.
I think.
Colorado.
There's a correct way if you're out there to pronounce the A in an incorrect way.
I gotcha. Well, we'll have to ask him next week. Or if he happens to be tuning in for some reason, I don't know why he would, but if he is, he can let us know. Maybe phonetically via text or message even. But in any event, he's been out there longer than he was in Jersey. But he's in Jersey now, and I'll actually probably see him over the weekend once or twice. And
I would imagine you guys could probably go out and, I don't know, have a beer or something.
Something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. I think there's a football game or something like that on that we might be both be interested in.
You know what? Get a like a Matt's beer ball. Mm-hmm. And order up some Dominoes.
Sure, absolutely.
It'll be like a time warp.
And all of a sudden, we'll be back in 1980.
Yeah, there you go. Just clear out the fridge, right? Take the shelves out. You put the beer ball
in, right? Exactly. And there's not going to be any pizza left, so you don't need the shelves for the pizza. So
No.
Just leave the one on top. Leave the one
Not
on
that
top.
you would even put it in the fridge anyway. You just leave it out.
You leave it out. You
drink
drink
anyway.
Right, exactly. It's warm by the time you get to the bottom, but it didn't taste that good to begin with, so what's the difference?
22 years old, but overnight pizza's been sitting on a counter overnight. Is not going to stop you.
Exactly. Yeah. Overnight pizza been sitting on the counter all night, plus warm beer. That's
although I wouldn't recommend it for you guys now. You might want to
no
this time.
Well, it's odd. It's odd that you said that because I'm actually going to open a beer right now.
There you go.
Haven't had a beer on the show in a bit. Obviously, the craft beer show on Tuesday nights, I have beer all the time.
Well, you make up for it there.
I make up for it there. So I'm drinking
FAQ.
FAQ. This is from Dancing Gnome Brewing, which is in Pittsburgh, actually.
Okay.
I was out in Pittsburgh in July, and stopped at the brewery. Stopped at a bunch of breweries actually out there.
Now, is that one of your IPA type beers?
This is a double IPA. This one is. It's a double. This is a double IPA. I'll show you the.
I have decided finally. I won't say decided. Figured out, because as you know, I'm not a big beer connoisseur or anything like that.
Right.
I have decided I'm not a fan of the IPA.
You are not. Well,
no. Well, I don't know. It's a little too heavy.
Right.
It's got that darkness, that kind of, sometimes that bitterness or whatever. It's not that I hate it. There's probably a couple that I like, but I think this was only recently, maybe a few weeks ago. I was out at a restaurant and I got something. Mm-hmm. They had the beers separated and like, here's our IPAs. And there was one that sounded good and I tried it and I went, oh, all right, I don't like IPAs.
Do you remember what it was? I'm curious.
No.
All right. Was it a local beer?
Maybe.
Gotcha. All right. Because there's a bunch of really good breweries out on Long Island.
There are.
Yeah.
I think it's just that style is not my.
And you and I are going to have to do a remote special podcast from, I think it's only a couple miles away from you, in Northport, Sand City.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll go down to the village and
go down there and
go to Sand City, and we can actually remote from the waterfront there.
That would be nice. We could do that
right down the street is the Harbor.
Right in the harbor.
And we'll go sit in the Gazette in the Gazebo.
The Gazebo.
And they got I think they got electrical outlets in there on the side. We'll plug in and do the podcast from the Gazebo.
That works for me. Drink a couple Sand City beers. We'll get some grilled cheese from what's the name of the place? Brew Cheese. I think
Brew Cheese, yeah.
Brew Cheese, yeah.
It's so good.
Good.
If you were gonna come here, we would go there. We went there once. It was so good. So good.
Yeah, the cheese there is ridiculous.
If you like cheese.
Oh yeah, you got it. Who doesn't?
If you don't like cheese, then it's really not for you.
I suppose lactose intolerant people don't like cheese, but
yeah. Well, no, they love cheese. They just can't.
They just can't have it, right?
Yeah.
So there's
they gotta. There we go.
There's the pour right there.
Yeah, I think I like the way they look, but they're just too heavy for me. I'm a wuss. I like watered down.
Well, this time of year, I got to be honest with you. I don't drink a whole hell of a lot of IPAs because it's getting into the fall beer season. What I like to actually refer to as beer season. Period. Not that the rest of the year isn't beer season by any means, but
yeah.
But there's a lot of fall styles, lots of German styles between Oktoberfest beers, a couple different styles of Oktoberfest beers too, amber ones and straw ones, lighter ones. And there's a lot of other beers out there too, and most of them are all malt forward. They're not hop forward, so you would like pretty much all of those.
All right, there we go.
So
that was what I saw. Is it the Blue Moon?
Blue Moon has an IPA now. They have a hazy IPA now.
So maybe that's something about Blue Moon. And I seem to remember many years ago, 20 or so. My wife and I went to Europe. And I had some Blue Moon beer there.
And some Blue Moon in Europe. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think it was Blue Moon. And it's the name struck me. I was like, hey, I've had that.
There you go.
But that was like a, I don't know, 12% alcohol or something. It was really one of those killers.
There's a lot of, the highest ABV alcohol beer I've had, actually, be honest with you, was 58%.
Ooh.
It was Scotch. It wasn't beer.
And
it was from a brewery in Scotland called Brewdog, and the name of the beer was Sink the Bismarck.
Okay, appropriate. Yeah,
exactly.
That'll do it.
We have a comment from David A. Scardino says, "Go Cowboys." So, Dave, you'll be happy to know that Radio Pete is he is a Jets fan, but his National League NFC team is the Cowboys. So he is a Cowboys fan as well. So I'm outnumbered. So, there you go.
Well, listen,
and ironically, Dave is tuning in for what I think is the first time, because he and I went back and forth the other day, and he hadn't. He actually hadn't yet, and he was going to tune in today. And of all days, Harry Lug Nutz is not on the podcast.
Yeah.
Dave and I and Harry Lug Nutz, the three of us with a couple other gentlemen, were actually in a band.
Okay.
Actually, several bands.
Is this Guitar Whiz Dave?
No. This is Drummer Whiz Dave.
Oh, Drummer Dave. Okay.
Drummer Dave. This is Drummer Dave. He is quite the virtuoso when it comes to drums. So yes,
Dave,
I'm blowing smoke up your ass, Dave. But
you and I are well matched. I too am a drummer.
There you go.
I was never in a band with John, of course, but and a Cowboys fan since they were America's team back in the 70s. So,
and I want to know who actually voted on that. Who made them America's team?
Well, I believe it was America.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah.
They took a poll of everyone, and that's how it came out.
Yeah, I remember it was a thing that came in the mail, and
exactly. I had to fill it out. So,
yeah,
Dave, just for your own information, Harry is actually in Jersey right now, and he's visiting his nephew and his sister, and there's a family thing going on. He was planning on coming on tonight, but he wasn't able to because this impromptu family thing actually happened, and he will not be on the show tonight, but he will be on next week. So
he's probably out at a bar watching a band.
No, actually, I did talk to him before, and I heard a baby crying in the background. So unless it's Log, unless it's his band, and they actually have a real baby on stage to play "Babies Are Born Without Kneecaps."
Yeah, I was going to say
he's not. There you go. And Dave just said,
"There's a Log cover band."
There you go. It's a Log cover band. There you go. Dave just said, "Let's jam." Assuming I know he wants to. I know I want to jam, but I'm assuming he means you too, Pete. So if it's just the three of us, it's two drums and
I'll bring
keyboards and guitar.
I'll bring my tambourine.
There you go.
And my son's got a theremin. I'll bring that too.
You actually, you know what? You did tell me that. I did know that. Your son is a theremin. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. So we can do Good Vibrations. So at least we could do that song.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway.
And we can play Halloween music.
That too. This is true.
We can play a Halloween version of any song that exists.
That's great. That's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Should we talk some sports? What do you think?
Yeah, I guess. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This actually is a sports podcast.
It is actually a sports podcast. So.
We do usually spend the first 8 to 14 minutes talking about something other than sports.
Nonsense mostly, but
Yeah. So should we start with the old NFL, or do we want to get some baseball out of the way?
Let's get some baseball out of the way. We'll talk a little bit more about baseball next week because next week's show, Harry will be obviously on the show, and also it's only like about 4 days away from the last day of the season before the playoffs. So most everything will be shaken out by then. We can discuss it at length there.
And considering the state of the Mets and the Yankees.
Yeah,
there won't be much really for us to talk about.
Exactly.
Not next week, but the following week's show.
I
don't think either one of them are going to the playoffs.
I know the Yankees have a better shot, but
they do.
The Mets are just no. So, Mets wise, get this out of the way. Did you see the game yesterday?
No, I did not.
Did you see any highlights of it? Did you see Pete Alonso was on second, and I forget who it was hit a single. I mean, it was decently into the outfield, but it wasn't too deep. Run scored, but DeSarcina sent Pete Alonso home, and he was out by a mile. I mean, he had no business sending him. It was ridiculous. I mean, the throw was on the money too. So, and I mean, I think he tagged Alonso in the face. He's just standing there waiting for him. But DeSarcina goes back in the dugout and punches a wall. So. Good thing he's not pitching, but that's that pretty the Mets right there. I don't really need to say anymore. I mean, they're just on such a skid, and there's a lot of teams that are actually. I mean, there's a Deadspin came out with an article about 3 hours ago. It says we are witnessing a multi-team choke for the ages. So it's like no teams can lose. The only teams winning are the Dodgers and the Giants. That's it. So, and the Blue Jays. Not the Blue Jays. The Rays.
And the Cardinals.
And the Cardinals, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look, we could pretty much wrap up the Mets season right now, right?
Yeah, I don't think
I
there's
mean,
much more to talk
they're
about.
really
If there's
five
not
or six,
something
five or
interesting
six
happens.
games under 500.
Their 5 games are 73 and 78.
Yeah. So they're just not that good.
They're 7 games behind Atlanta, so they have to win out, and Atlanta has to lose every game just to tie.
Yeah. And then they got Philly in the way too. So
and Philly's in the way too.
And
They're 4 behind Philly.
Obviously, no way that.
No.
And it looks like I'm thinking, just looking here, it looks like St. Louis is most likely going to be the wild card.
Yeah, St. Louis has a I mean, it's even. They're 81 and 69, and the closest team to them is actually Philly, and they're 4 games behind them.
Yeah, 4 games back.
4.5 actually. 4.5.
4.5 out of the wild card. Well, Cincinnati is 4 games out of the wild card, but San Diego.
Cincinnati is
5 games out of the wild card, but San Diego can't make up enough ground.
No. I don't know if you saw that. There were, I guess, San Diego was playing the Giants yesterday, and the Giants had what's his name, the submarine pitcher on the mountain. He literally went down. He threw that ball maybe 3 inches off the ground, and it literally came. It was riding the ground, and it came up and just caught the bottom of the strike zone and went right in. And I mean, Tatis was just standing there. He was like, "The hell was that?" Strike 3, boom, out. He walked off home plate like shaking his head. It was ridiculous, but. Yeah, that pretty much sums up what's happened to the Padres so far this year too. So I mean,
listen,
as good as the Padres were, I mean, they're literally only 3 games ahead of the Mets right now.
Right, right. And look, we didn't expect San Francisco to be
nearly
as good as they are, and certainly the Dodgers didn't expect that. And there's just not enough room for those 3 teams.
Right.
All in the same division. So,
right.
But look, the Mets are playing the Red Sox tonight. They've got 3 against the Brewers. That's not going to be pretty.
Nope.
Although the Brewers are pretty well ahead, right?
The Brewers have already clinched.
Brewers have clinched, yeah. But it's not like they're going to sit all their starters.
No.
And then they got 3 against the Marlins. Kind of been their Achilles heel as much as anybody.
Right.
And then they finish up
against the
Braves. So they're done. The Mets are done.
Yeah.
And, listen, Nimmo is back, right? He's been activated now.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly we're going to see maybe both Syndergaard and DeGrom pitch before the end of the season. But obviously it's not going to be for any significant number of innings, and it's not going to really mean anything. It's just going to kind of get them out there. And
I'm sure if we're gonna see DeGrom, DeGrom's not coming out of the pen. If we're gonna see DeGrom, he's starting 1 game, and
and he's going to go 4 innings maybe, and
maybe even 3 or something like that.
Yeah,
and if we do see Syndergaard, he's coming out of the pen.
Yeah, it'll be a feel good kind of thing to end the year, and it's which is a wasted effort because nobody feels good about this year.
No,
if you're a Mets fan, and
I'll tell you who does feel good about this year, and that's Andy Martino. I don't know if you've seen anything, but apparently he has a man crush on Luis Rojas.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he can't. Every article he writes, regarding the Mets, obviously, says things like Luis Rojas he's the man. He needs to stay on this team. Steve Cohen, don't get rid of him. You need consistency. He's a great. It comes from a great baseball family, but I can go on and on. Mm-hmm. I'm like, he's literally the only one in the world saying these things right now that I've heard.
Maybe Rojas has pictures of him,
other than relatives of Luis Rojas. But I have no idea. I don't really get it. But he's like, it just oozes oddness. It's really weird.
To me, this is the bigger question with the Mets is or as big a question with the Mets is how much time do we give Steve Cohen?
I think you got to give him another couple of years.
Obviously, you're going to get, but right now, for lack of any other evidence, I'm a little worried. You know what I'm more worried about? Whether he's going to do the right thing or what exactly that right thing is.
I'm more worried about who he has helping him making the right decisions.
Yes, right? I agree.
Okay. Sandy Alderson is just, he did a great job 30 some odd years ago in Oakland. He's been a great baseball mind, but the game is beyond him. And he really didn't do the Mets all that right before he left, before Brodie Van Wagenen came in. And he's not now. He's just not. What bothers me is that he's in that role as team president, okay? And even if they somehow do, entice Theo Epstein to come in and take the job as president of baseball operations, and
it's not that hard.
No, it's not. But he's not going to have the final say. Sandy Alderson still is. And no matter what Steve Cohen says, Steve Cohen doesn't know as much about it because, let's face it, he's got the deep pockets, but he's a fan. That's really what he is.
Right. That's the point I'm making. Cohen needs to clean house.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a fan, you can understand that what you're doing right now isn't working.
Right.
And he should be able to see, and this is where we're going to see maybe if his ego is going to get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
His thought process should be, we've all seen what Theo Epstein is capable of doing.
Sure. Exactly.
There's no reason to think he will not have success if he comes to the Mets. So give him what he wants.
Right.
Right. Cohen's the guy to give him what he wants. If it's $25 million or whatever, I don't know what the what the asking price is.
Right.
But Cohen needs to say, even as a fan, this is not working. He needs to get his ego, if it's in the way, out of the way and say, okay, these were not the right guys. Thank you, Sandy, for everything, but we're going to part ways now. I'm going to bring in the guy who's taken two teams that didn't win in a fucking 100 years each, right?
Mm-hmm. Pretty much, yeah.
And made him World Series champions.
Made him World Series champions. And
he's
and one of them multiple.
Right. Right. So if he can say, okay, I didn't make good decisions about this. Now it's time to clean house. Here's the keys. Theo, do what you want to do. I'm going to get out of the way.
See, what I would do is,
if he cannot do that, then we might be in trouble. We might be in trouble.
And what worries me is that Theo Epstein's we all know it. Theo Epstein's the guy for this job. Theo Epstein's the guy that's going to help the Mets get back to the World Series and win it. All right.
He's not the only guy.
He's not the only guy, but he's the guy.
He's the best guy.
Here's the best guy. So this is my thing. This is where I'm going with this. They're floating Billy Beane out there. Billy Beane, and that's a great name too. Don't get me wrong. All right. I'm worried that Sandy Alderson is, kind of self-preservation mode. Doesn't want Theo Epstein involved because he sees the writing on the wall that he's going to go bye-bye.
Of course
right?
He does. Yeah.
So that's why he's talking about Billy Beane, right? So what I'm thinking is Sandy needs to go bye-bye. Theo Epstein needs to become team president. Then they can bring Billy Beane in as president of baseball operations, and he can bring in his GM if he wants. It's a big shakeup, and it's going to cost Steve Cohen a bunch of money, but he's going to win. All right.
Yeah, I mean...
Or he's going to be a hell of a lot better off for it. Let's put it that way.
He'll be better off. Look, Billy Beane's a great name, but again, is he the guy for the modern game?
I don't know, but
we're talking about his philosophy, and there are certain aspects of his philosophy which certainly apply, but you can't, you can't build another.
I agree.
Look, do we want the Mets to be the East Coast National League Oakland A's?
You know what? I mean, for a couple of years would be nice because at least they'd be relevant, right?
Well, they overperform, they get to the playoffs, and then they flame out. And they never win anything. You got to get beyond that. And maybe Billy Beane's philosophy, that's what you're going to get at best.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Let me ask you this way. All right, you're not going to have Sandy Alderson as team president and Theo Epstein as president of baseball operations. This is not going to happen. I guarantee you, there's no way he's going to do that. It's not going to.
Alderson stays on, he's going to be a consultant.
Exactly.
Which, unfortunately, I look. I don't want him in any role, and it's it's time for freshness. I don't want any of the old guard whispering in Steve Cohen's ear.
Right.
New owner, new people.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for your service.
See you.
But
goodbye.
We're going in a different direction.
Exactly, and that's where I'm going. But my point is, if they leave, if Steve Cohen leaves Sandy Alderson in as team president, he's not. I'll lay money down on it. He's not hiring Theo Epstein. Because it's self-preservation. Theo Epstein is going to move up. He's going to want to move up, so it's going to force.
Yeah, I don't think Theo's going to take the job.
Right, and he wouldn't take the job. He wants to be team president. That's what he wants.
Yeah,
all right.
He's going to be making the final decisions.
What would you rather have? As a Mets fan, what would you rather have? And by the way, Dave Scardino says Epstein would do wonders for the Mets. Abso-friggin-lutely would do. Absolutely.
Of course he would.
But whatchamacallit, what would you rather have as a Mets fan? Would you rather have Sandy Alderson as team president, Billy Beane as president of baseball operations, and some GM? Or would you rather have Theo Epstein as team president, Billy Beane as president of baseball operations, and some other GM? And it could be somebody else too at that point. But of those two, which would you prefer?
We'd rather have Epstein, of course.
Of course. So
he's got a better track record.
Right.
Look in this sense, and maybe this is what will be good about Steve Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty simple call. You just look at the track record.
Right.
And yes, there are monetary considerations, of course.
Sure.
But Steve Cohen wants to win, and he has to realize that the guy who's done it before, as we just mentioned, his credentials, is the best opportunity to do that. And he may keep Sandy around for a year as a consultant. He may find some, made-up title for him out of some sort of loyalty, or maybe just to have a familiar voice, or maybe someone in Alderson who's going to represent, who's going to share Steve Cohen's point of view or whatever, something along those lines.
Right.
But you have to, it can't be a final decision-making process. Input, yes. Decision-making, no. Now, whether Alderson will take that job, I don't know. He might, because what else is he going to do?
Right.
Except retire.
He'd get retired.
Or he could get he could go somewhere else, but he's 97 years old now, right?
Right. Something around there, yeah.
He's,
But he won a World Series with the A's back in 89, right? But
yeah, that's a long
time ago. He took the Mets, or I shouldn't say he took the Mets. He helped the Mets get to the 2015 World Series.
Doesn't have any value, but
he has value, but it's not the value that the Mets need right now. That's not where they need to be and where they need to go. So,
and I don't see how he meshes.
No.
In a new regime, and that's what Steve Cohen should do.
Exactly.
Clean house. Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Exactly. So. Well, we'll see how that all shakes out. We'll do more of a Mets report or year-end report, within the next 2 weeks. Obviously,
do we have to? I really don't want to.
Look, we're already talking hot stove, right? I mean, they've still got 9 games to play, and we're already talking hot stove. 12 games actually, and we're already talking hot stove, including tonight. That is. But let's for shiggles, let's see what the score is right now. All right.
3-0. I didn't even look.
Where are my scores? Right here. Here we go. Is it 3-0 right now?
I don't know.
It's loading. The Mets. It is. Don't you wish it was 3-0? It's 7-1 Red Sox.
All right, there we go.
Yeah. So that's.
Look, the Red Sox have something to play for. Right?
Oh, by the way, it's the bottom of the third. It's 7-1 Red Sox. So.
Yeah. Well, they could come back.
Well, they could. They could come back next year and play again.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little Yankees.
Why don't we talk a little Yankees? The Yankees are losing right now to the Rangers at home, 2-0.
But they have won the first 2 games of that series, I believe, right? They're going for the sweep tonight?
They're going, I believe you're right. I believe they're going for the sweep tonight. And Kluber's pitching, too. So you would think that the way he performed last time out, he would be doing a little bit better. It's top of the 5th right now. Rangers are at bat. They looks like no outs and runner on second right now is what I'm looking at.
Well, I heard Aaron Judge say the other day. I think it was yesterday. Today Wednesday still. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. They were listening to Bart and Hahn, and they played some tape. And he said he was trying to be very positive because of course you have to be positive, but it really was just. I mean, it was. If you want to call it what it was lies. Right. There's a difference between being positive and just outright fucking lying about shit.
Right. Yeah.
So, but Judge is a very positive guy, and he was saying it was funny because he was contradicting himself. On one hand, he was saying we like where we're at.
Who would like where they're at? Who would like that?
Looking on the outside, looking in at the wild card, and then. 8 seconds later, he was saying, well, of course, you'd love to be in a better position. So, we just have to go out and play good ball. And I think Aaron Boone said the same thing. We just have to go out and play well, and, things will happen.
Right.
Somebody ought to step up from the Yankees organization and go, we pretty much need to win every game that we have left.
And if they do, they'll be in. If they, look, look, they could lose a couple of games in there because Toronto's not going to win out, So,
no, but it wasn't that long ago they won 13 in a row.
Right.
Now, it wasn't against, let's see, what's the rest of their schedule? Tampa Bay, right?
Yep.
They got the Rangers. Or it wasn't against the Red Sox, Blue Jays, and I believe they finished with the Rays. Yeah.
They finished
So
with the Rays,
after tonight, you got 9 games against the 3 teams that are ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not winning all 9 of those.
No.
But, anything can happen. It's the Yankees. Maybe that magic kicks in or whatever. But somebody just needs to come out and go, yeah, we're in a hole. And if we don't start digging up, as I believe Homer Simpson said.
Digging up. Yeah, exactly.
We're going to just bury ourselves very quickly. I don't see it happening, but stranger things have happened.
It's true. It's true. I mean, and it usually happens to the Mets, not the Yankees, but who knows,
So I guess, again, I bigger disappointment for the Yankees, I think, given what we're expecting at the beginning of the season.
When you come right down to it, I mean, let's call it what it is. At the beginning of the season, did we really think the Mets were? I mean, we hoped that they would compete for the playoffs, right? That's what we were hoping. We didn't hope that they were going to, somehow sneak into the World Series by any means.
No,
but
it
we
wasn't
hoped they
realistic.
Just to get to the playoffs, wild card, whatever, and
Yeah, you can't go by a lot of the hype that you hear out in the sports talk world because the sports news media is driven by clicks. So they, I think the Mets could win the division. Blah blah blah.
But that's the worst thing that happened to the Mets this year, for the fans wise, was the fact that they were in first place for 3.5 months.
Right.
If that didn't happen, if they went back and forth and fluctuated or whatever, then
look, they're in a lousy division, and everybody was kind of playing fun. They were in first place, right? We talked about the games that they missed.
They never moved away from anybody else. They were just in first place.
Everybody basically played 500 ball.
Yeah.
And then in the last couple of months, a couple of teams played a little better than 500 ball, and one of those teams was not the Mets, and so. Forces we reversed, but you're right. I don't think anybody was really considering. Maybe after a month, you might say, well, maybe they can contend for the division or the what's the word I'm looking for? The little group that they're in.
Division,
yeah. The division title, because nobody was really making a move and nobody looked that great, and the Braves were struggling after looking so damn good.
Right,
especially in the playoffs last year. What the hell is wrong with them?
And
so we were entertaining those thoughts, but going into the season, I don't think anybody but the most stalwart or hallucinogenic Mets fan was saying, "Oh, they're going to the World Series this year."
No. I mean, I don't even think they were saying it, but
no.
Well,
we were expecting Syndergaard back in the middle of summer, and we were expecting a push. And I think we were
expecting DeGrom to win his 3rd Cy Young. We were expecting Syndergaard back. We were expecting
a different team than what we saw.
Right, exactly.
Because of injuries, and that happens to everybody. But
and then the day before I was at this brewery, okay, the day in Pittsburgh, the day before I was at this brewery.
You were at another brewery.
The night before, well, yeah.
You were at a different brewery.
I was at
and
4
you had
breweries.
an epiphany.
I did. No, but the night before I was at this brewery, I was at PNC Park in Pittsburgh, watching the Mets kick the crap out of the Pirates until the 8th inning. And from the 8th inning on, the Pirates kicked the crap out of the Mets and won.
Yeah. That was ugly. That was ugly.
That was the beginning of what has happened, and I was there.
that was so it's your fault.
It's my fault.
That was
totally
nearly
trying to go to Pittsburgh that weekend.
Sunday football poop emoji type of baseball being played in the latter part of that game.
Right here. This was that all night right there.
Yeah, it was bad.
Right there.
It was bad news.
It's crazy. But, but as far as the Yankees go, I mean, look, they got a lot of arms coming back now. They got Severino actually pitched a couple of innings last night out of the pen, and he looked dominant, like really dominant. He looked really good. Herman is going to pitch out of the pen now, or is pitching out of the pen now. So, if they can make this push and they can win the games and they can stop the nonsense that has happened since, a couple of times this season, let's say, but certainly since the 13-game winning streak, then, hey, all bets are off in the playoffs because they're still the team that they were. They're just not. They're not. The Mets were. The Mets were. And I know I keep going back to the Mets here, and I keep obviously going back because we're gonna, right? But
We're Met fans.
Of course, and Harry's not here to
I
defend
know.
the Yankees.
Usually he talks about the Yankees. I don't have to say anything except
right. We'd have just sit and listen to him. That's it.
Whatever, something stupid.
Right, exactly. But in any event, the Mets they have the players on paper, but they don't have enough of them, and the pitching, never materialized. Between DeGrom, Syndergaard didn't come back. It was there, but it wasn't. It was there, but it wasn't there. So the Mets were kind of where they were, but the Yankees, it's still the same team that the expectations were greater, and they still can play to that level. I believe that they were not as good as they were during that 13-game winning streak because they were just, kicking ass and taking names. But I still stand by the fact that they're not as bad as they are or have been since then. You know what I mean? So they're somewhere in the middle. And I think they're closer to the 13-game. Honestly, I think they're closer as a team to the 13-game winning streak than they are to, how they've been playing multiple times this season. I think they've just been, phoning it in. It's amazing.
I think they're kind of in the middle of those two things.
Mm-hmm.
I said a couple of months ago, I think a little bit before the All-Star break, when they were still a few games back, and they were 8 games back or whatever, and they just couldn't seem to get get the head of steam well before the big winning streak. And right. I said, we're going to reach a point, because up to that point we were talking about, you look at the Yankees on paper and they're a better team and they just kind of have to get it together and the bats are going to come around. And I said, we're going to reach a point pretty soon where it's probably not a case where just the bats are going to come around. You have to. There's only so much so many times or so much time you can spend saying, well, this team is better than they've played. Mm-hmm. If you play a whole season and you're not better than you played, then you're not better than you've played.
Then you're not. No, then you're not.
And I said, I think we're kind of going to reach that point pretty soon where we can say, yeah, this is a decent Yankee team, but they're really not as good as maybe they look on paper.
Right.
And shortly thereafter, they had that winning streak, and everybody went, okay, here we go. This is what we've been waiting for 4 months, and we're back now. And then it all fizzled away. So this Yankee team.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts too. Okay. LeMahieu's played 37 different positions this year.
They've been shuffling guys around. They've had as many injuries, if not more, than anyone else. But the thing about this Yankees team is they don't, for whatever reason, they don't seem to have it.
Right.
That Yankee whatever.
Right. And they had it
had it for 13 games.
Well, right, but of late, prior to this season, and even a little bit last year, but certainly prior to the season, 2017, 2018, 2019, it was there. Last year with Girardi, first couple of years with Boone, it was there. And they just couldn't get past the Astros and the Red Sox the 1 year, but I mean, they were right there.
But there were teams that were better, and that magic Yankee dust, fairy dust.
For all intents and purposes, it's still the same team that has been there for the last 4 years. I mean, a couple of different pieces here and there, but for all intents and purposes, it's still the same nucleus, if you will.
Yeah, but something's missing.
And I don't know whether that's.
They don't have the magic fairy dust. They just don't have that.
You know what else is missing this year? Tanaka. I mean, that really can't be the answer, could it? But it's really the only thing missing, really.
Tanaka was the streak breaker, right?
Right.
He was a losing streak breaker, particularly I think last year or the year before. So
yeah,
I don't know. They're not as good as they should be.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they should be particularly better than they are. I think they are what they are. They're a pretty good team. They had a lot of injuries. It's hard when you don't have a set lineup. I don't know whether Aaron Boone is a good manager or not. Some Yankee fans hate him. Some think he's doing a pretty good job considering, maybe he's holding it together.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to consider, there's other teams that are, let's say, getting more better than the Yankees are. Mm-hmm. Is anybody, in love with the Yankees offseason moves this past year?
I don't think so. And
did they improve themselves enough to where they deserve to compete?
And that's
with
where
the Rays and the Astros.
Right, exactly. And that's where the whole thing with talking about Brian Cashman comes into play. I mean, is he done? and not necessarily done in general, just done with the Yankees. Is he just phoning it in at this point? He's certainly not.
Well, I don't think he's phoning in, but maybe he's lost his touch.
Yeah, that's
and maybe that fairy dust covered up for. I mean, he made some great deals. There's no question about that. But he's made a lot of moves that a lot of Yankee fans are not happy about as well.
Right. And
maybe I don't know, that the Yankee magic is not as evident as it has been in the past.
No, it's not. It's not. Dave Scardino actually just wrote in too. He said Mets have two of the best starting pitchers in the game. Unfortunately, injuries happen, but with them both healthy, you just need to get to the playoffs, and it would be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were hoping for, right? Yeah, Syndergaard comes back in June or maybe early July.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right, a nice push through the dog days of summer.
Hey, look,
hanging around.
Look, it's not really that far of a something to think about. If DeGrom did not get injured and DeGrom kept pitching every fifth day, right, straight through, nonstop, kept pitching every fifth day.
Yeah, they have 4 more wins.
Maybe 3, but
that's the problem, right?
I know.
If they could put more than
they were actually winning games from this year. Not winning as many as they should have, but they were winning games more so than they've had in the past.
Not when he was pitching though.
That too. No, for him though. They were, but he was helping himself out, right? I mean, every time he was pitching, he was getting 2 and 3 hits and driving in a couple of runs.
It certainly would have been a morale boost,
right?
To have him around. They certainly would have felt like there would be more games where they felt walking onto the field. Well, we got our man,
right?
We got the 2-time Cy Young winner on the mound. We're gonna, we got a chance to win today if we can score more than 0.8 runs, per game for him.
Right. So you couple that with Syndergaard actually coming back, all right, and then you have Taijuan Walker pitching. You have Marcus Stroman pitching. You got Cookie Carrasco. Maybe would have been nice to get him back sooner.
Yeah,
than later. David Peterson went down. He hasn't pitched in longer than DeGrom, right? I mean, he's been injured too. So it's been, the injuries. It's the injuries, and the injuries basically took out the pitching staff.
What is the identity of the Mets?
That's the biggest thing.
Lindor's been so horrible, right?
Better lately.
Okay. What's his season average? He's had a shit season.
He's had a shit season, but if you take his average from August 1st, he's had a decent season.
Okay, he's had a shit season.
No, he has had a shit season. I'm agreeing with him. I'm just saying if you look at
yes, he's played better of late. But by August 1st, it's
hopefully
too late.
No, of course it is. But hopefully that translates into next year. Hopefully it doesn't take him August to start.
My point is he can't be the guy to step up because he's playing like shit for the first 5 months of the season.
Exactly.
Right. And who is it going to be? Conforto?
I think Conforto's
Alonso.
Conforto's gone. I think he's out of here.
Over the course of this season. Who's been the leader of this team?
Nobody. Alonso, if anybody.
Alonso's been the face of the team because he hits home runs and he's a good guy. And
I think, to be quite honest with you, since August 1st, Baez has been the face. Been the leader of the team.
He's that kind of a guy, right? Mm-hmm. But he hasn't exactly.
He didn't warm fans over after a couple of weeks. Obviously, with that whole
performance, I think, is down a little bit. Although, I think people really, if you really didn't look at his numbers coming in, you thought he was a better average hitter, maybe than he was. Right?
He's a great glove, and when he
hits a lot of home runs.
He's a lot of home runs, but he's going to swing at everything. I could throw him a pitch 30 miles outside the strike zone, and he's swinging at it.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah, strikes out a lot and hits, a lot of home runs for his position. But who's the face of this team? Who's the leader of this team?
It's
hard to say.
You know who was in the last couple of years, to be honest with you, when they actually had a couple of those rallies? And I hate to say it, Todd Frazier. He really was. He got he wasn't the big. He had a couple of big plate appearances, that's for sure. But he wasn't the big bat that you needed. He certainly wasn't the big glove in the field. But he was that guy in the dugout. He was that guy in the dugout.
I mean, there's nobody who seems to have that personality, that step up. That
there's no David Wright in the clubhouse right now.
Right.
There's none. Right.
So the Mets and the Yankees both underperform, and most likely neither one's going to go to the playoffs. Now, having said that, Yankees will probably win 8 out of their last 9.
Yeah. Well, the Yankees right now are even with the Blue Jays for the second wild card spot. Right. So
Are they?
yeah, they're both 85 and 67.
They're better off.
So,
They're better off than I thought, I guess.
yeah. So Boston's got the first one. They're 2 games ahead of the Yankees and the Blue Jays. So everybody's coming out of the East. But the Yankees and the Blue Jays are even right now.
Listen, I don't think Seattle.
So all the Yankees have to do is win one more game than the Blue Jays win in the next week and a half, and they're in.
Yeah, I don't think Seattle is much of a threat. I don't see them winning enough games. But Oakland could put together a little streak. They're only a couple of games.
They're
back.
3 games behind the Yankees.
Yeah.
2.5, actually. 2.5 behind the Yankees.
So
Oakland and Seattle. Well, both of them. Oakland and Seattle are tied right now. They're
right, but I'm saying of those 2 teams, I
could see Oakland. But it would be a waste because, again, they're not going to do anything in the postseason, right? It's the typical A's, But
so the Yankees basically, in my book, I mean, look, they're only a couple of games behind Boston, right?
Right.
So
they're only 2 games behind Boston. They could,
but it's really Toronto and Oakland that they have to worry about more.
They got to worry about Toronto and Oakland. That's what they
just win every game.
You go if they go out and win out, they're in. Obviously, if they go out again, they have to win. They have to win 2 more games than Toronto, and they have to win 4.5 more games than Oakland.
They basically got to win series, right?
Actually, no. They can win one. They win 1 more game than Oakland. They're fine.
Right. I mean, if they take 2 out of 3 out of Boston, right? They won't catch Boston.
That'll give them a game
depending
closer.
On what else happens. Let's assume everybody, has roughly the same record outside of the games they play each other.
Sure.
Then they got to take 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays, right? Just to kind of get ahead of them a little bit,
right?
Right. That would put them a game up, and then they've got to finish up with Tampa Bay, who I can only imagine they would love to knock the Yankees out of the playoffs in the last weekend of the season.
Sure. Well, I mean, look, Tampa's in already. Tampa's clinched already, but Boston and Toronto and the Yankees all control their own destinies.
Right. Win and you're in.
Win and you're in. All 3 of them.
The Yankees have got to win series. If they can win all 3 of these series, then they should be, they could maybe get in. Boston will have to lose a couple of games. And, of course, Oakland has to.
If they win all 3 of the series, they're in.
Depending,
I mean, the only way to do it is to, if they win all 3 of the series, that means they're winning 2 games more than Toronto is because they're beating Toronto twice. So they're in.
Well, but it'll depend on what else Boston does.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Right, if they win 2 out of 3, they pick up a game, right?
They pick up a game on Boston, but it doesn't matter because Boston will have the first wild card spot. The Yankees will have the second.
Oh yeah, that's true. Right. Unless Oakland goes on a run.
Right. The only other way that would be is if Toronto sweeps their other 2 series. That's the only other thing.
They're all kind of in that same position.
Yeah,
so
again,
basically,
they control
whoever
destiny,
wins the most games, those 3 teams, is most likely going to be the second wild card team.
Exactly.
Or 2 out of the 3 wild card teams.
Right.
Unless Oakland or Seattle goes on a run.
Just give you an update. It's the bottom of the 5th right now. The Yankees have runners on first and second with nobody out, and it's 3-0 Rangers. And as far as the Mets go, it's the bottom of the 4th. The Red Sox have nobody out and a runner on second, and they're winning 9-1. So, I think you could stick a fork in the Mets. We don't need to talk anymore. We're done. We're good.
So after tonight, the Boston and the Yankees will basically be where they are.
Right.
2 games apart with 9 games to go.
Exactly.
And 3 against each other. So,
there you go.
That's the one they need to sweep.
That is.
Sweep the Red Sox, and then you're in decent shape at least.
Exactly. And as far as the rest of the league goes, the White Sox, they're in command. I mean, they're 11 games ahead, so they win another 2 games and they're in and they clinch.
Yeah. Houston is Houston.
Houston is Houston. Same thing. That Houston needs to win 4 games, I think, or Oakland needs to lose 3 games or 4, whatever.
I don't see Philly catching Atlanta.
Philly's not catching Atlanta. I really
obviously
don't think
St. Louis is not catching Milwaukee. They're
no, Milwaukee clinched already. So the only thing St. Louis can do is grab a wild card.
St. Louis is yeah, well, they're the favorites for the second wild card right now.
Right now they have the second wild card.
They actually have a better record than Atlanta.
Of course.
So they're most likely because if Philly doesn't catch Atlanta, Philly's not catching St. Louis.
St. Louis is 4 games ahead of Philly right now and they're in the lead or whatever. But but that's for the second wild card spot because the Dodgers right now have
San Francisco and the Dodgers are going to be.
Whoever doesn't win the division has the first wild card. So between the San Francisco and the Dodgers.
All right, that's enough baseball.
Enough baseball.
Just an hour on baseball.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to what's that other
Hockey?
sport? Croquet?
Paralympics?
No, I think we'll do football. How's that?
Fine.
All right, let's do football. All right. First of all, I had a quiz.
Oh, all right.
I
will answer for both Harry and
I think you should answer for both.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to let the day go by without the quiz. So you just do both. And
no, we're not throwing the whole show in the toilet just
not
because
at all.
Lug Nutz doesn't show up.
Exactly. So, all right.
Can't
Assistant
wait
coaches.
To flip the coin for your picks, Harry.
Exactly. All right, we're doing assistant coaches. We're doing assistant coaches that became head coaches with other teams.
Keep 4 out of 7.
I'm going to give you 12 names. You got to keep 9.
You got to keep 9 and name 1 alternate.
No. Easy peasy. I'm going to give you 5. You got to keep 3.
Assistant coaches that became head coaches with other teams.
Assistant coaches that became head coaches with other teams. Now,
I may need the coin for this.
There's a caveat for the Jets because I obviously am going for bigger names here, not just generic, and there really weren't too many that became head coaches for other teams. So
are you saying Jet assistant coaches have not had much success?
No, some of them have. Some of them have.
Okay.
But
not 5.
Well, you'll hear when I give you the names. Okay. So assistant coaches that became head coaches with other teams. 3 stay, 2 go. Okay. All right. Number 1, Chuck Knox.
Okay.
He was an offensive line coach with the Jets. He wound up being head coach with the Rams, the Bills, and the Seahawks.
Right.
And then back to the Rams after that.
Yeah.
So Chuck Knox.
I knew all that.
2 is Buddy Ryan.
I'm a big Chuck Knox fan.
There you go. 2 is Buddy Ryan, defensive line coach with the Jets. Won a Super Bowl, I think, with the Jets, didn't he? Pretty sure.
Buddy Ryan? I don't know.
Buddy Ryan was a defensive line coach in '68. Yeah.
See, I never consider he got a ring. I'm not saying he didn't contribute, but the assistant coaches don't win Super Bowls. The coach wins the Super Bowl, and the players.
Well, I mean,
they win it, yes, but
they contributed.
He was a big contributor. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything, but
yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, so Buddy Ryan.
Yes,
So Buddy Ryan, of course, he went on to be a head coach in Philly and in Arizona.
Right.
Here's one of the caveats. Pardon me, Pete Carroll.
Okay.
Because he technically became a head coach of the Jets, but he's done a hell of a lot more as a head coach in Seattle.
Yes, everywhere else.
He's
done a hell of a lot more everywhere else that he's been a head coach besides the Jets. Yeah.
And he was defensive coordinator under Bruce Coslett. So,
why would you bring up that name?
Sorry. And of course, he went on to be a head coach in New England and in Seattle. Obviously, Seattle, much better. Bill Belichick, technically
had success in college too. By the way.
Right, I've had a lot of success at USC and everything else.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick, need I say was technically a head coach twice of the Jets. Before Parcells and after Parcells for 8 minutes each. Yeah. Defensive coordinator with the Jets, obviously New England, obviously. And here's number 5. Romeo Crennel.
All right. Crennel, Belichick, Carroll, Knox,
Buddy Ryan.
Yeah. So I got to keep 3.
Keep 3.
Now, when we say keep 3,
now
does that mean history remains the same?
No.
Their relationship to the Jets, or I get to keep them and they get to actually coach the Jets?
You get to keep them, and what they've done with the teams they went on to be a head coach for, they're the head coach of the Jets. So
all right.
That's where I'm saying.
Well, gosh, I guess I'd have to go with Pete Carroll first. I mean, Belichick. Belichick and Pete. I like Pete Carroll. I thought he deserved more time with the Jets, and obviously I was right.
He deserved more.
Although maybe he did have to go back to college first before, maybe.
Well, he went to New England before he went to college. Back to college.
Right, but he had his success in Seattle after returning to the college ranks.
I see what you mean.
Sometimes guys need that, right?
Right.
There's a lot of great college coaches who sort of flamed out in the NFL. Anyway, so Belichick and Carroll.
Steve Spurrier, Nick Saban, we can go on and on.
Yeah.
So Belichick, Carroll, and who's the other one? Who's the other one you keep between Cornell, Ryan, and Knox?
Well, Cornell was in New England, right? And then Cleveland. Wasn't he in New England and Cleveland with Belichick?
He was in New England, and he's been everywhere with. Actually, no, he wasn't in Cleveland with Belichick. He was in New England with Parcells, and he was back at the Jets, obviously, when he was with the Giants. He was on the Giants coaching staff from Ray Perkins before Parcells.
Ooh, yeah, he's been around.
He's been around. And,
he's almost 100 years old.
Something like that, yeah. But
he officially retired. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
He's still like a consultant to the Texans, okay. I think, right now. But no, he was on the Giants. He stayed on the Giants with Ray Hanley too. Then went up to New England with Parcells. Came to the Jets with Parcells.
There's a name you love.
Exactly. I'm not even going to talk about Ray Hanley.
If you want to stab a Giant fan in the back, just say Ray Hanley. Cornell, Knox, and who was it third?
Cornell, Knox, and Buddy Ryan.
Oh.
Who are you picking? I should be playing the Jeopardy.
I hated Buddy Ryan. Never liked Buddy Ryan.
You didn't like Buddy Ryan.
Who was the guy?
Did you like his son, though?
He was okay.
He was all right.
He was a good team manager. Who was the guy that scored the touchdown and then threw the football at the picture of Buddy Ryan on the wall? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know you're talking
he was
about,
with Arizona, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's like, fuck you, Buddy Ryan.
That was funny, yeah.
Well, Ryan was he was the 46, right, in Chicago?
Yeah. He was the
designer of that defense.
He was the defense coordinator.
Yeah.
Buddy Ryan's won 2 Super Bowls, one with the Jets, one with the Bears. So he was Weeb Eubank's defensive line coach, and he was Mike Ditka's defensive.
You know what? I'm gonna take Chuck Knox because I like him best.
I had a feeling you would.
Yeah,
I had a feeling you would. Those would be my picks, too. Belichick and Carroll are givens. I would pick Knox.
Yeah, Cornell never did it on his own in the big time. He's a great coordinator, not a great head coach.
Cornell was an awesome coordinator. And Buddy Ryan.
I like him, good guy, but
Buddy Ryan as well. Buddy Ryan did decently in the late '80s with the Eagles.
Yeah.
But other than that, he was a much better coordinator than he was a head coach. So yeah. I would say those are your picks.
Knox.
Belichick, Carroll, and Knox. There you go. All right, I'll give you Harry's.
I need what kind of hat does he wear? What's the name of that style of that hat that he wears? I got to get one.
It's a beret.
Is it a beret?
I believe it is. It's it's not a beret. It's
it's like a driver's cap or something.
Yeah, it's flattened back and then it comes down in front or whatever.
Why
do you have one? You gonna put it on? But
no, I don't. I'm thinking I might get one just in case
this happens again.
I have to do a segment as Harry.
Exactly.
All right.
So I'll give you Harry's. Now these are Giants assistant coaches that became head coaches with other teams. All right. So here we go. And obviously I'm going chronologically. So
okay.
Vince Lombardi, offensive coordinator with the Giants, head coach with Green Bay and Washington.
What did he do really?
Yeah. Won the first 2 Super Bowls.
Said a lot of stuff that people quote today, but
other than that, what's that? There's a trophy named after him, isn't there? I think.
Yeah, well, there's a rest stop named after him.
That too.
To me, it's a much higher honor than
higher honor on the turnpike. Sure,
piece of metal that people drink Mountain Dew out of.
Right.
Oh, that's the Stanley Cup.
That's the cup, yeah. So, all right. So Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry.
Okay.
Which I'm sure Dave Scardino is happy that I mentioned Tom Landry's name, and so are you too, as a matter of fact. But defense coordinator with the Giants, obviously Dallas. So
hell of an innovator too with the Giants, as the defensive coordinator. Hell yeah,
absolutely. I mean,
right? Creator of the flex D.
Look, Jim Lee Howell was a great coach, but Vince Lombardi and Tom Landry won that Super Bowl, won that championship in '56. The two of them did. We got a comment. Let me just see what Dave said. Absolutely. Yes. Of course. I know.
Yeah. Hey.
There you go. But anyway, so Tom Landry, defense coordinator with the Giants, Dallas head coach for 130 years.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3, Marty Schottenheimer. Linebackers coach. Linebackers coach back in the 70s with the Giants. Obviously, Cleveland head coach, Kansas City head coach, and San Diego head coach. All
Did
right.
he ever win anything?
He did well. He
Never quite got to the promised land, though, did he?
He did beat the Jets in the divisional round in '86, and then lost to the Broncos to go to the Super Bowl against the Giants. But
he just couldn't quite get over the hump.
He couldn't get over the hump. He
man.
had a lot of really great teams, but he couldn't get over the hump. So, number 4, Bill Belichick. Defensive coordinator with the Giants for 8 years, and special teams before that.
There's another name you can throw out for number 5 that's going to make me put him on the list, but
okay, ready?
Maybe.
Yeah. And Bill
Judging
Belichick
from your response,
Cleveland and New England. And here we go. Sean Payton,
okay.
offensive coordinator with the Giants and New Orleans. For the last 13 years or 15 years.
I don't think Sean Payton quite matches up to Belichick, Lombardi, and Landry.
Yeah, those are the ones you got to go with, right?
Much as I like them.
Yeah.
Although
Sean
maybe
Payton,
in today's game, if you're gonna, you might want to go with Payton. But I mean, those are 3 legends of the game.
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, that was a given, right? That was kind of a gimme. Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, and Bill Belichick. Sure. All right. So there's our quiz tonight. We'll throw that out to Harry next week before we do next week's quiz, just to see what he says.
I would be surprised if he chose anyone different.
I would be surprised if he chose anyone different on both of those lists. So we'll see.
He and I are usually in agreement.
Usually, last week you had one different, I think.
I think there's maybe. But that might have been the first time we actually...
That was the first time you were.
Disagreed on something, yeah. So he's allowed to be wrong.
He is. So, anyway. All right, football. Giants.
Want to start with the Giants?
We'll start with the Giants.
What an exciting game. Better than we would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's first give kudos where kudos are due. And I'm not saying that I'm giving the kudos, but Pro Football Focus did. Daniel Jones is Offensive Player of the Week. I'm not exactly sure why, because there were a lot of really good offensive performances. Yeah. Derrick Henry comes to mind. 375,000 yards rushing.
He had a pretty good week 2, sort of balanced out a pretty mediocre week 1. But if we're looking at week 2 numbers,
yeah. Well, it's of the week, right? So it's only week 2.
Right.
But I will give you this, though. I did a little digging. It's Daniel Jones led all quarterbacks in week 2. This is a little cryptic, but Daniel Jones led all quarterbacks in week 2 in total completions on passes thrown 10 or more yards downfield. He had 11 completions. And
11 completions more than 10 yards. Of more 10 yards or more.
10 yards or more. And
that's pretty impressive.
And he had 3 runs of 10 yards or more, tying Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts for the most of the week. So overall performance between passing and rushing as a quarterback, he was the best quarterback on the field in week 2. So, I mean, if you look at it like that, I still kind of would have gave the nod to probably Derrick Henry, but he did it. He did it in a couple of ways. He passed and he ran. He rushed for almost 100 yards. Daniel Jones. If there wasn't for that horrible call on C.J. Board that negated the one touchdown that Daniel Jones ran 50 yards for, he would have had almost 150 yards rushing.
Yeah.
And 2 scores. He had a touchdown pass and he had a touchdown run. Regardless, he would have 2 touchdown runs. So, I mean, that would have been hands down icing on it. But he did have a good game. He had a good game. All right.
He had a good game.
He needs to put a bunch of games together. But you know what the Giants need more than Daniel Jones? To string a bunch of those games together and continue to not turn the ball over like he had in the past. The defense needs to wake up. What the hell happened to this defense? Seriously, what happened to this defense? They weren't lights out. I mean, they weren't the Giants.
Better than they have been so far.
They weren't the Giants defense of the 80s. They weren't the Giants defense of the mid 2000s either. But they were good last year. They stopped people last year. They won in Seattle against Russell Wilson last year. What the hell is going on with this defense? It's just insane. It's the same defense. There's no difference. It's the same coordinator. It's the same players. What are they doing? I don't get it. I just don't get it. If anything changed in there, it would make sense, but it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I don't know. That's just my take.
Well, listen, the thing that's changed, perhaps, is what teams are doing against them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to look at film and you're
So
going to
they
say,
look
what
at
did the
film and
Giants
they
do well?
Right.
We're going to, if you're coming into, to play them, you're going to say, well, we're going to do this differently. We're going to do that differently. We're going to attack their weaknesses.
Right.
You can, when you're surprisingly good, either as a player or as a unit, and this is true in any sport, really, people figure you out, right? The hot young pitcher usually gets kind of figured out in the second half of the season.
Sure.
Maybe still pitches great, outside of, a DeGrom or somebody who's just lights out and just is so good. Guys who come in, well, I'm dating myself here. The example I always use is Fernando Valenzuela.
Sure.
Amazing first half. Nobody could touch him. Second half, not so much. Still added up to a great season. I think still added up to a Cy Young.
Sure.
But so maybe the Giants, did anyone expect the Giants defense to be as good as it was last year? Probably not quite that good.
Well, they got better as they went through the season.
They got
so
better.
you'd expect them to at least, maybe not pick it up where they left off, but not be this bad.
Well, right. And maybe there's something going on. Maybe their approach is slightly different. But I think other teams have, able to look at what they did and attack them differently. Maybe they're not making good adjustments.
Right.
Maybe.
Look.
I don't know.
I mean, no disrespect to the football team, if you will, the Washington football team. Which, by the way, and I've said this before on the show, you should have got off the pot. Pick a damn name.
Yeah.
Washington football team. Come on. All right. I think forget about all this other crap. Go with the Skins. Just leave off the red. Go with the Skins. Everybody called you the Skins anyway. Everybody said, "Oh, the Giants playing the Skins."
You're just shortening the slander.
No, but you're not though. It's just the Skins. You're not saying Redskins. It's completely different.
Skins.
No, it doesn't. It means skins.
It does.
Skin is a word. You don't need red in front of it. The only people that you will offend by calling them the Skins is skeletons because they don't have skin.
I understand your logic. I disagree with it.
Anyway, regardless of that, but
if there's a black guy over there and I go, "Hey, you nig," that's not going to fly.
No.
Because
But
you can't.
All right. Well, then,
if the people who find it offensive are still going to.
All right. Well, then, okay. No, let me ask you this. Then let me ask you this. All right. The Reds, the Cincinnati Reds. Okay, they're the Reds because they used to be the Red Stockings. They're not the Reds because of the color of skin or something like that. They're the Reds.
Red Sox.
Basically. Red Stockings. They were the Red Stockings when they were first a team. They were Red Stockings.
Right, because they were red.
There were Red Sox, right? But then another team came along and was the Red Sox, so they couldn't change the name of the Red Sox. They shortened it to Reds. So, but anyway, so they're the Reds because they're that. Now, nobody has said anything about the Cincinnati Reds changing their name, but it's the same idea as it's not red skin. You take the word skin off, it's red, right? Reds. So why would skins be bad when Reds aren't?
Because Redskins is a racial slur. Red
right, but I'm not calling them
the
Redskins. I'm calling them the Skins.
I know, but you're calling them a shortened version of a racial slur.
Yeah, but if your logo is skin, look, maybe like sunburn peeling. Just a piece of skin. Some guy holding skin,
If I call you John the asshole, and then I switch it to John the
you wouldn't be the first. So
no, I know, but I'm just saying. Either way, it's still nasty.
I know.
I don't think there's a Red Stockings society that is all up in arms.
I'm sure there is somewhere.
There might be.
Anyway, all right.
Here's what I'll say about the Giants.
Right. Good.
Daniel Jones had a really nice game. That is not how you want to win games if you're the Giants. You don't want to have Daniel Jones run for 100 yards and get in the end zone with his feet. Right? You've got all these weapons. and yet Daniel Jones is the focal point, and the
Right.
guy who's how many points did they score? What was the final? 29,
It was
30?
30 to 29, yeah.
So he scored half of their points.
30 to 29. Sarah Drew on our YouTube feed just commented, and she said, "Skins sounds weird. I'm going to make a team called The Flesh." I like it. Let's go for it.
I like it. Yeah. Yeah. Sarah is a web developer out of Utah who is a classmate of mine and was a classmate of mine. And she's very cool. She's a gamer. And The Flesh.
The Flesh. There you
The
go.
Washington Flesh. It's got a decent ring.
I like that. They can give them a pound of flesh.
It's better than football team.
It is.
So that's my point about the Giants.
The Washington Pencils is better than the football team. So.
Yeah. You don't want Daniel Jones to have to do that much.
No, but here's my.
What did
But here's my thing.
Barkley had one nice run, but what.
Yeah, but that was it. He had one nice run. But here's my thing. Here's where I was going with that whole Washington thing. So we'll just say Washington for now. All right. Nothing against Washington. Flesh. Right. Nothing against Washington, and certainly nothing against Mr. Heineke. But the Giants defense made, the Washington, basically what they're at one point third string quarterback.
Yeah, made him look pretty good.
He looked like Tom Brady. He threw for almost 350 yards. I mean, what the hell's that?
Although I think he's
2 passes and they scored a touchdown. They were on the 25-yard line. 2 passes, 12 seconds off the clock, and they scored 75 yards and they scored a touchdown.
There are mistakes the defense made that you just can't make.
Right.
And look, Heineke might be a little better than your typical third stringer, right? We saw a little bit of evidence of that last year. And there are some people, including some of his teammates, who, excuse me, are very high on him, and they're like he's the real deal. And we'll find out. We'll see what his career is like. But they made him look real good. The Giants, we've talked about, they got to play 60 whole minutes, right? They got to play a good 60 minutes. Well, they got to play better, particularly on the defensive side of the ball.
They do.
And
the offense
got to get better use out of their offensive weapons. It can't just be Daniel Jones.
It was bad. It was bad. It was a hard catch for Darius Slayton, that one catch in the end zone, and that one call on DJ Board, and who knows if he would have gotten him. He shouldn't have held him, but look, whatever. It is what it is. The Giants lost. Move on. But my biggest problem, even more so than the defense playing weak and the call, the non-catch and the call on the touchdown run from DJ and everything else, my biggest problem was the final play of the game, or the second to last, I should say, of the game, was they missed the field goal, and with the clock expiring, 0 on the clock, and they threw a flag on Dexter Lawrence for encroachment or offsides, right? Yeah. If you look at that, and they showed the play.
Are you gonna say it's the refs again?
No. They showed the play. They showed the play. They showed it down the line. That ball moved before Dexter Lawrence moved. Nobody else did. He left before. He was so on the ball, if you will, and then everybody else moved. So it looked like he left early because he left before anybody else, but the ball left first, and it was a split second, but he did. The Giants actually got an apology because it was the wrong call. But
so he got the perfect. So he actually did get the perfect jump.
He got the perfect jump. Everybody else was delayed, so it looked like he left early, and they threw the flag. Right.
Because when I first saw it, I went, "Oh yeah, it's obvious. He's off."
Right.
I didn't see the down the line.
Yeah.
But then when I watched it a couple of more times, I went, "I don't know. It doesn't look like the ball was moving before he was." So.
Yeah, the ball moved, like if you get it in slow motion, the ball moves and he moves. He was on it. Yeah. He was on it. It was perfect timing. But they threw a flag on him, and then they apologized for it. But here's my thing though. They gave, and obviously nothing's going to come of this, but my point is they gave an apology to the Giants, but they gave Washington an untimed down to kick another field goal, and it went through and they won. Now
plus 5 yards.
Well, yeah, that too.
Right, and it was 5 yards closer. So.
Right, exactly. So now that being the case, if they apologized for making the wrong call, and the only thing that happened after they made the wrong call is an untimed down, Shouldn't they say, okay, sorry, Washington, you didn't win. The Giants won the game. Obviously it's not going to happen. I get it, but you know what I mean. But here's my whole thing with that, and a bunch of shows have said it. No, I'll wrap this up because I know I'm going on, I'm dragging this on. But here's my thing. This, more than anything else, or as much as anything else, I should say, proves to me that they really should let coaches, and even in the booth, review everything. You still only have 2, and a third if you get both of those right. But you have to pick and choose. So if they let him review everything and the Giants were out of reviews, well, then forget it. It's over with. But if he had a review left and you can review everything, throw the flag. You know what I mean? Why are only certain things reviewable? Now, they're saying only certain things are reviewable because they don't want all these reviews to go on all the game. But if you only give them 2 reviews, what the hell's the difference? What the hell's the difference what you review if they're only allowed 2 a game? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. This kind of
because they don't want to show they don't want to show the referees up. I don't get it. I don't. They got to do something. It's the system's somewhat broken. There's been bad calls, and it's not just the Giants. There's been bad calls all over the league. And we'll get into that in just a second, because I know Dave's waiting for this conversation. But there's been bad calls all over the league, and it's. I don't know how long ago was it. Remember when they had, I don't know, I forget how long ago it was, when they had the replacement refs for the first, is it 2 or 3 games of the season, because the refs were striking. It's almost as bad as it was then. Not quite as bad, but almost as bad as it was then.
Well, look, the whole replay thing was because they wanted to get it right, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do that, then
get it right.
And this was certainly a case. I mean, all scoring plays are supposed to be reviewed,
right?
So even though the kick that missed obviously wasn't a scoring play, you should be looking at that and saying and looking at all of those angles and looking down the line, and somebody ought to be able to see it and go, hey, the ball moved before he did.
Right. Exactly.
That call should be wiped off, and then there shouldn't even be a second kick.
There should have been a second kick. Exactly.
Probably replay and the challenge system and all of that, it's obviously going to evolve over time.
Right.
They don't have it quite right.
No.
And it's a really slippery slope that they're trying to climb on here, trying to walk on.
It is.
Because it's going to be really easy to overdo it. But this certainly seems like a clear case of a call that really had a super direct impact on the game.
It did.
And should have been reviewed, and somebody
if somebody
makes
a bad call with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you don't know how that would have played out. You don't know what would have come from that if they didn't make that call or did make that call or whatever way it goes. And throughout the next 9 minutes, there's no way you can actually go back and figure that out. So that's one thing. But this was plain and simple. The Giants win if you make the right call. You made the wrong call, the Giants lost. So it's a win-lose situation, black and white. I don't get it. An apology is all you want. I mean, you're talking about a sport that has 17 games. It's not baseball where there's 162. You lose. Maybe it comes down to a game or two at the end of the season, but you have plenty others to make up the difference. This is 17 games. That's it. But whatever is what it is. Moving on.
Yeah, hopefully it'll serve as some sort of an example. It will be looked at, and people will say, well, this is something we need to do better.
Yeah.
And they'll find a way to do that.
Exactly. All right. It's just going to suck if it comes down to the end of the season, and the Giants, clearly you're still talking about the NFC East. The Giants are, the only team coming out of the NFC East is the divisional winner, right? And if it comes down to the end of the season and the Giants lose out on winning the division by 1 game to the Redskins, I'm sorry, the football team.
The Flesh.
The Flesh. There you go. The Flesh. And actually Sarah said, sounds metal, she said. So, but in any event. All right. Jets. 4 interceptions. I'm gonna give you your soapbox. 4 interceptions.
Look,
I mean, he's a rookie. He's 12, right? I think, or just 13.
it's almost 13.
He's almost 13, right? Okay.
The book will be out on Zach Wilson, I would say, for at least probably the next 2 or 3 years, right? How can you judge?
Yeah.
Put a good enough team around him to support him.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's only been 2 games.
Sure.
It looks like the game is really too fast for him at times.
Right.
And he's going to have to make his adjustments, and it's only been 2 games. I wasn't expecting him to come in and be gangbusters. I think there was a lot of media hype, and we know what the draft is all about. It's right. It's Kuiper, and everybody's got 1,000 drafts. They come out every day, and we like this guy.
Mel Kiper has 1,000 drafts each day.
Yeah.
So, and he already started last year. He already started next year is the day after the draft this year.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, the Jets are going to, pump up what their decision is and talk him up,
Right.
And they doubtful he was going anywhere else, right?
Right.
So wait and see.
We'll wait and see.
I picked the Jets to win a few games this year because I hope they will. I think they're good enough to stumble into a few wins, but
you picked the Jets to go 6-11.
Yeah, that was because I'm a fan. Probably it's going to be 3 or 4 now.
Right.
More likely, but
I said 5-12, and Harry said 4-13. Just for anybody playing along at home. So
probably
more on par.
Yeah.
So you actually picked the Giants to have more wins than me and Harry as well. You said 9-8. I said 8-9. Harry said 7-10.
Well, I think the Giants have a lot more potential for improvement.
True.
Look, the Jets
they have a team that's been together a little bit. The Jets are the youngest team in the NFL.
Jets are a very young team. They've got a brand new coach and a brand new coaching staff and a brand new philosophy again.
Right.
Fortunately, their quarterback, this is his first coach and first coaching staff and first philosophy.
Sure.
So he's not, bouncing around. Although so far it doesn't look like all of that hurt Sam Darnold all that much.
Right.
Certainly between the last Jets starting quarterback and the current Jets starting quarterback, I think it's pretty obvious who's going to have a better season.
A little bit.
But I think that we shouldn't have been expecting too much, and things take time to come together. Like I said, they're young. They got a new staff, a new head coach, first-time head coach. Just build. This is what the Jets season should be about.
Exactly.
Get better.
Right.
Just get better. Be better at the end of the season than you are right now.
Right.
Not a very tall order because they suck right now.
Right. Pretty much.
But we should expect that, and nobody should be booing them. Now, if we get to week 8 and we see the sort of things from Zach Wilson that we were seeing from Sam Darnold throughout his Jets career, which is the same sort of mistakes, throwing across the body, trying to force it, not figuring out, throw it away, or if you can't do that, take the sack, not always trying to make something happen. And that's hard when you're a young quarterback on a team that's not very good, right? You put it on your shoulders. And that's one of the things I liked about Sam Darnold Bradford is, right, he went on the radio. It went on the radio every week and said, I got to be better. This is on me, Right. But he was trying to do too much, and he never quite got out of that. Now he's in a situation where maybe he doesn't have to do too much, and he's having some success. And we'll see how his season goes. I don't know if he's going to be a Pro Bowler. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
But I think certainly his abilities and his talents will be better utilized.
Well, I have a feeling a certain running back by the name of Christian McCaffrey is kind of helping Sam Darnold out a little bit.
Well, he's got good weapons around him, right? He's got good tools, and he doesn't have fucking stoner man laser eyes as his clueless boy as his head coach. So as his third head coach or second head coach or whatever. So just Zach.
Matt Rule's his third head coach. So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So look, Zach Wilson, don't get outside of yourself. Don't try and do too much. Right. Learn, grow, get better. That's all we need from the Jets in general and from him specifically.
There you go.
That's all we need.
And that's really what it boils down to. They just need to work together. They need to work out the kinks and use this season. And everybody knew it. It's not like it's not like Robert Saleh was going to come in, sprinkle some magic fairy dust on the youngest team in the NFL, and they were going to go to the Super Bowl. So, but improvement. And I know it sucks to say, but hey, you know what? That's what the Jets need. They need improvement, steady over the next couple of years, and then maybe be relevant at that point. And get back to playing good football.
You could be, depending on what other teams do in the division, right? I think the Bills are probably going to they're going to have a good quarterback for a while. And
sure,
New England, who knows? And Miami, 2 of the book is still out on, I think. But, this year, next year.
Yeah, three of the 4 teams in your division, in the Jets division, have brand new quarterbacks within the last 2 years.
Right, right. And if history is any indication,
and if you go 3
probably
years,
most of them are not going to be great.
Right.
And if you go 4 guys that come out and they're mediocre at best, or flat out lousy, or they become journeymen,
right?
Than guys who show up and become superstars.
This is Josh Allen's 4th season, and he's the eldest quarterback in the AFC East.
Right.
So
they could be, contending in the division, relevant in the league in as little as 3 years. But you got to develop your players, and that should be the mindset. And just don't trade away your future for that free agent, because if we could just go on like a 4-game winning streak, then we could have a shot at the play. Just don't do that this year.
Don't do it. Yep.
You got a plan. Hopefully, I assume they have a plan.
You would think.
Stick to it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Moving on to another game or two. What'd you think of the Chargers Cowboys game? What'd you think of that?
I'm glad the Cowboys won.
Of course you are. And Dave, you're still with us, and I know Dave is glad the Cowboys won as well. So, but look, there were some questionable calls, and look, I'm not going to be the Cowboy hater that I seem to be on Sundays, but whatchamacallit, they were and both you and Dave know what I'm talking about. But in any event, there were some questionable calls. It got to the point. It got to the point where it was almost as if the NFL needs the Cowboys to win and doesn't need the Chargers to win.
Yeah, that's it. If anything, it seems Cowboys games bring out what appears to be as legitimate as any sort of conspiracy theory. There are certain games where you just look and go, man, the league just wants these storylines.
Right. And it was a shame too, because there was a couple of nice plays that happened from that the Chargers played. Pardon me. That were negated from ticky-tack questionable penalties. Penalties that could have gone either way, and in most games don't even get called. Most, not all, they do get called, but not most. More often than not, they don't get called. But in any event, be that as it may, here's one interesting fact from that game. It was the first time in NFL history that there was a 14-11 halftime score.
Really?
Yep. There has never been a 14-11 halftime score. The Cowboys were up, obviously, 14-11 to the Chargers. But yeah, it was the never before in NFL history has there been a 14-11 halftime score. So there you go.
How is that possible?
Just never been. So 14 is not the odd number. Obviously, the 11 is, but never at halftime. Just has not happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, look, one of the narratives I think going into this season by the media, the click wanters, the clickies. Anyway,
the clickers.
Dak's back, and the Cowboys are going to be better, and right. I think we all probably looked at the NFC East is generally theirs to lose, right? In our preseason. Certainly Harry's a little more down on the Giants than you or I, obviously. But
oh yeah, no.
I don't think that narrative is correct. I don't think they really as good as they've been portrayed to be. Again, that's the storyline. That's right. That's what people want to think. I don't think anyone looked at that game, and then I would think going into that game, you would have just as many people thinking that the Chargers were a better team than the Cowboys heading into that game,
right?
As you did people thinking the Cowboys were better than the Chargers.
It's probably 50-50.
Maybe more,
right?
But at least 50-50 would be my estimation. And I don't think that game changed anybody's mind.
Yeah.
At least as far as those who thought the Chargers were better.
Right.
I don't think the loss made anybody say, yeah, the Cowboys were better. They said the Chargers got fucking robbed on a couple of bullshit calls because the league loves the Cowboys because they're a great story. Well, they're not a great story, but they get clicks, they drive the narrative. And the Cowboys and up until recently, the Patriots, still kind of the Patriots, right? Because what's a great story? The Patriots, no more Tom Brady, but they still get something done, right? That's a great story.
Right.
And the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs are just a great team, but also you want them in the hunt. You want the league wants the Packers in the hunt, right?
Yep.
Other teams like Seattle, the league really care what Seattle does this year?
No.
They're yesterday's news.
Exactly.
Right? And that probably should still be a pretty decent team. And Russell Wilson's still a great quarterback, but they're not the story. There's other teams that are the story.
Right.
And unfortunately, the Chargers should be one of those teams that's the story.
They should be.
Because they got a great second-year quarterback, and they got a nice team.
Right.
And they could really do some damage.
Right.
But I don't think they're going to certainly not going to get the kind of play from the powers that be that the Cowboys are.
Right. Dave Scardino made a good point. He said, you mean like the offensive pass interference that wasn't called against Tom Brady and the Bucs?
The superstars get the call.
Neither of us are saying that there aren't any other teams that get favored by the league. That's for sure.
No, I just rattled off half a dozen or 3 or 4 that I think.
And Brady gets call. Brady gets call. Brady gets all the calls. All the calls. There you go. Brady gets all the calls or non-calls. Yes.
By the way.
And agreed. Yeah. Look, the league wants Dallas to do good. The league wants Tom Brady to do good.
Yes.
All right. The league at this point, to a point, does want Patrick Mahomes to do good. All right. The league actually doesn't mind if the Giants do good. But I think they're lower on the totem pole than the others. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they're just not good. They can't get into that point where, the league is saying, hey, let's move this along. Look, you know what? I mean, the league is a better league when specific teams are playing better. And those specific teams are the Giants, the Cowboys, the Bears even, the Packers.
The nationally known, loved,
teams.
and or hated teams.
Right, the Patriots.
Teams that people on the other side of the country don't give a rat's ass about.
Mm-hmm.
League doesn't, unless they come out like gangbusters.
The league doesn't care about
unless there's
the
a
Falcons.
Great human interest story,
right?
The
league might care
like Cincinnati last year.
Right.
If Joe Burrow hadn't gotten hurt,
right,
up to the point where he got hurt,
sure.
Cincinnati was getting some press on the national level. Because it was a great story. Here's a rookie quarterback getting the shit beat out of him. But, man, he's good.
Yep.
That's the sort of thing. That's the narrative the league wants to push, or a narrative the league wants to push.
Exactly.
And then he got hurt. You never heard a fucking thing about Cincinnati after that.
Right.
And they were terrible, so why would you? But,
Shame.
I just, before I forget, speaking of Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm. Who?
Yeah. Have you seen the Subway commercial?
Which one?
With Tom Brady?
I don't think so.
It's Tom Brady and a bunch of other people. So I guess Shaq is their spokesman now. So Shaq is.
So this is Subway. I thought. I thought Steph Curry was the new flavor.
Well, he's got a bunch of them.
Right.
Anyway, the theme of the commercial is there's so much stuff going on at Subway that we don't have time to get to all the celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, we got this sandwich and this is going on. And they're like, we don't even have time for this guy. And they cut to Tom Brady holding a sandwich. And he looks at the camera and he goes, but I'm Tom Brady. And they cut away from him. Like, we don't even have time for this guy. But I'm Tom Brady. And they're on to, whatever the next. It's really, really well done. It's very funny.
Nice.
And kind of makes me like Tom Brady a little bit more now. And I can like him now because he's not the nemesis of the Jets.
Right. There you go.
But it's a great job in that commercial. Very, very funny. So.
That's funny. No, they do a good job. They do a lot. That's a commercial you'd think you'd see during the Super Bowl, but they're not going to have Tom Brady on the Super Bowl commercial because he's usually in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So,
but they that's sort of their theme now. I think they did the same sort of thing with Steph Curry, where they had him like appear in the shot, and then they're like, nope, and they go on to whatever else.
Yeah. Right.
So, kind of pretty funny, and the cut is perfect. Mm-hmm. So, very funny.
And Dave just said Herbert will be a great one. Absolutely will be.
Yeah,
Justin Herbert's a good. He's materializing into a good quarterback. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that should be a narrative they're pushing.
Yeah, it should be, and I hope they do. All right. What else?
Ravens Chiefs. We want to talk about the Ravens.
Yeah, let's talk about the fact that the Chiefs defense gave up 251 rushing yards to the Ravens. I got 3 words to say to that. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, a defense that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago against an explosive offense like the 49ers were that year, and competed in the Super Bowl. And obviously didn't win it, but competed in the Super Bowl this past year. 251 rushing yards to the Ravens. Yep. Seriously, now the Ravens are no slouch, but 251, not 251 yards, 251 rushing yards.
Yeah.
To the Ravens.
Yeah, look, the story of last year's Super Bowl. Harry's going to be mad that he missed this. Was Tampa Bay's defense.
Sure.
Right, and what they did.
Right.
Against the Chiefs offense. And I said a few things about how some of the Chiefs didn't help Patrick Mahomes out much. And we talked about, what do you have, 500 yards scrambling or whatever, 498 yards or 495 yards scrambling, all that stuff. Right. But the Tampa Bay defense was lights out, right? But the Chiefs defense was no slouch over the last couple of years.
No.
They're kind of slouchy. At least they were against the Ravens.
A little bit.
And the Ravens are to me, they're a team that they're sort of in limbo now, right?
Right.
They've been a story, Lamar Jackson, but he hasn't been able to get over the hump, right? So
he almost got over the hump the first year, and then he hasn't been as close since.
So how long do you hang on to that story? You just kind of let it play out,
right?
Is he the guy that you want to be talking about, or that the league wants people to be talking about nationally? Right. Maybe not so much. He's kind of maybe a little bit higher on the scale, let's say, than Russell Wilson.
Yep.
Right.
Maybe.
But he's not the push right now anymore. Yeah. But keep winning. And I think they're 1-1, right? Ravens are 1-1.
Ravens are 1-1.
And by the way, doing them no fucking favors. They lost to Pittsburgh week 1, right?
Yep.
And then, okay, they're going to come on back and play the Chiefs. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Lee.
Yeah, they're not really doing them a big favor.
No, they're not doing them any
not
favors.
At all.
Pounding them like that, Yeah. But if they keep winning, then they'll force their way into being part of that big narrative.
Yep. Yeah.
How long can you maintain greatness if you're the Chiefs, right?
Right.
What other team in the league has been at the top of their game like that over the past 3 years? I mean, Green Bay, but they haven't quite gotten over the hump. Right? Well, right. They did, but they didn't win it, right? And then lost in spectacular fashion last year.
That's it.
Tampa Bay last year.
Last year, but over the last 3 years.
Over the last 3 years.
Over the last 3 years, it's really just been the Chiefs and the Packers.
Right.
That's it.
And that's really hard to do, right?
It's
hard to go back to back. It's hard to win conference championships back to back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to be one of the best 3 teams in the league year after year after year.
Agreed.
Now, I don't think the Chiefs are falling apart.
No.
But they got to make some adjustments because, again, the longer it goes on, the more time teams have to figure out how to beat you.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good thing for them that it's happening now. It happened in week 2 and not in week 15.
Yeah.
Because they have another 16 weeks to figure it out as opposed to another 3 weeks to figure it out.
Right.
So,
right.
And
they may return to that.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll get it done because they're the Chiefs and it's Mahomes.
Yep.
But, listen, that mystique may have come to an end.
Right.
Now they might be yeah, they're the Chiefs and they're the Mahomes, but maybe they're not so magical. Maybe they got to work just as hard as everybody else to stay on top. Not that they're slackers. I don't mean that. But there was just something about them, right? They had fairy dust. And that fairy dust was Patrick Mahomes, but also a goddamn talented team on both sides of the ball. So maybe, other teams are figuring stuff out about them. And maybe the Ravens are just better than we thought they would be. We'll see.
This is true, too. Could be either. For another note for another game, the Raiders, here's a very weird stat for you. All right. The Raiders are 2-0 for the first time in the Super Bowl era versus teams that were in the playoffs last year or the previous year. So,
I don't know. Does that actually mean anything?
Not really, but it's a stat that popped up a couple of times over the last couple of days. So I was like, let me just read it. The last time they were 2-0 was in 1995. Was the last time they were 2-0
against previous year playoff teams.
Period.
Oh, 2-0, period. Oh, okay.
They've never been 2-0 to start a season against the previous year's playoff teams since before 1967.
Oh, this is the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Well, listen, they still have time to be inconsistent like they were last year.
Of course. Plenty of time for that. So.
But
right now they're playing pretty good.
Yeah, certainly these first two games, a big boost for them.
Yep.
And look, maybe, I mean, we don't think Chucky's a bad coach, right?
No, I don't think so at all.
Right? He's had success.
Yeah.
Didn't he win a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay?
He won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Yeah. But he also won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay after leaving Oakland, knowing what Oakland was doing, and then playing them in the Super Bowl. So,
yeah.
Might have helped a little bit.
Yeah. But I think the knock against him was, well, they're paying him $10 million a year, and he's wearing 3 hats, right? He's running the whole show there.
He's running the whole show. He's got everything. Yeah, he's doing everything.
But
and he's wearing 3 hats, and his boss is wearing a bad toupee.
Yeah, he's the guy that would like to go, oh, right, we love to dig on him, right? Because he's an arrogant motherfucker.
Right.
Right? The stare. Oh, right. How many times do they show that close-up of him staring when something didn't go his way?
Right.
Oh, man, he's mad now,
Sure.
But maybe it's coming together now. Maybe, right? This is second year?
Third, fourth,
Third year.
maybe. Third or fourth.
It's been a while.
Third. It's at least the third. I think it might be the fourth.
So maybe now it's all coming together, right? Maybe all those hats.
It's the fourth, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, I think this is the fourth year.
Fourth year, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe now his plan is coming together, and, again, it's a long season, plenty of time to be inconsistent, plenty of time to lose out at the end and be the Raiders. But would the league love the Raiders to return to prominence?
I think they would.
Probably wouldn't mind.
I think they wouldn't mind it.
With, heretofore semi-journeyman David Carr at the helm.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's a great story in itself.
That's a great story.
How long has he been in the league?
He's been in the league for a while as well.
Right?
His brother has a Super Bowl ring.
Right. But he's been around, and now it's finally coming together, right?
His brother has a Super Bowl ring as a backup to Eli Manning, but that's besides the point.
Listen.
Ring is a ring, right?
Nicer than my ring.
Exactly. Dave Scardino just said, I know it's early, but how about all 4 teams in the AFC West might make the playoffs? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Yeah. 3 wildcard teams, sure, they could do that. That's absolutely possible. That would be interesting.
That would be something.
That would be a first, and it would be interesting too. And it's not outside the realm of possibility. That could very well happen. The way they're playing, the way they could play, the potential there. Sure, why not? They could. We'll keep an eye on that.
Talk a little bit quickly about some other games.
And NFC West too, he said. Yeah, that too. All West teams are actually pretty damn good right now. So
yeah, it's a sad day for the East.
Absolutely.
Broncos over the Jaguars. Pretty good defense the Broncos have, right?
Yep. Yeah, they got a decent defense.
Bills beat the shit out of the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Did you want to say more about the Broncos? Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, not at all. We're glossing over them here.
Tua, do we know Tua's out for this week? What are we?
I think they just announced today that he was out. He's at least doubtful, but I'm pretty sure he's out for this week.
Okay. Did we learn anything about the Eagles? What as far as whether they're as good as they looked first week, or maybe they're not so good?
I don't think they were as
not
good.
that good, right?
They're not. I don't think the Eagles were as good as they were the first week, but I don't think they were. I don't think they played that bad on Sunday either.
49ers didn't exactly blow them out.
49ers didn't blow them out, but they had chances. They had their chances too. No, they're not a great team by any means, and they're certainly not going to win. I mean, look, the bottom line is either the Cowboys or the football team. I keep wanting to say the other name.
Flesh.
The Cowboys or the Flesh are winning the.
Congratulations, Sarita.
Yeah, exactly. You've
renamed an NFL.
You've renamed an NFL franchise.
Team. There you
Absolutely. Go. But hey, the Browns are played a good game on Sunday. 31 points. Panthers. Oh my God. And what happened with the Saints? I mean, they were lights out. Think about that.
That's the thing. Jekyll and Hyde here.
The Saints 38-3 against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers looked like Zach Wilson, basically.
You're telling me the Saints defense can shut down Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but
can't shut down.
Panthers are putting up 26 on them.
Exactly, and they were only able to score 7 points. That's it.
Right.
And then the Packers come back and have their way with the Lions, which, I mean, of course, it's a divisional game. The Packers were home.
Right,
so
right.
It is what it is at that point. But there's a lot of parity already in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
Rams 27-24 over the Colts. Are the Rams not as good? Are the Rams maybe not as good as we thought? The Colts.
I think the Colts are a little bit better than we thought. I think the Colts are a little bit better than we thought. Yeah. Rams are good. I think the Colts are a little bit better than we thought.
Vikings Cardinals, that one shouldn't have been that close. Cardinals look good again. Kyler Murray looking good to start off the season. He did that last year too.
Yeah, but they almost lost the game. I mean, he makes that field goal.
Yep.
The Cardinals lose.
Yep.
Cardinals are 1-1.
Falcons are terrible, but they still they put up 25 on the Bucks, but still it was that was never close.
No.
Titans, we talked about.
Derrick Henry just running all over the place. Yeah.
Running wild.
That was the tale of two halves too. I mean, they unleashed Derrick Henry in the second half. They were, the Seahawks were walking away with that game, and then they, and that's a testament to anybody that sits there in modern day NFL and says you can't win with a running game. Really? Because the Titans just did on Sunday.
Yeah.
No,
and they did not in week one. I think he had 54 yards.
He had a lot. Yeah, he ran. A lot less than he should have in week one. Talk to me about two fantasy teams that I lost the game specifically because he only ran 54 yards in week one. But
right.
But
so it was a fun week.
It was a fun week.
Yeah.
So All
right. Do we want to do picks?
I think that before we do picks, I would be remiss if we didn't. I know we already talked about the Jets, but I would be remiss if I didn't.
Oh, if you didn't play the sounder.
If I didn't play this. Yep.
Oh.
There we go.
Are the Jets gonna win today? No. I mean yes. I mean no. I mean yes. I mean no. I mean yes. I mean no.
There you go.
And unfortunately, the answer is most likely going to be no again this week.
Well, it was a good way to set up this following sounder and segment as well. So I think you're right. I think we should do picks. Let's get to beaten by the coin. Beaten by the coin.
I'm sure I'll lose to the coin.
No one wants to be beaten by the coin.
Couple more weeks, and we might have to break out last year's Jet Sounder.
I think we might have to.
I'd say if we get to what? If we get to week 8,
and they're 0-8,
maybe week 6. I don't want.
Let's go 6. Let's go
6. If we get to week 6, and they don't have a W, I say we switch over.
We'll switch over to last
year's Sounder.
I think so.
All right. Well, let's see. Let me pull up last week's performance here. There it is. So it was an okay week for us. It was a great week for me.
It's a great week for you again.
So here's the results of last week. You, sir, 3-2.
Yep.
You're on the grind, 6-4 overall. Harry is just a game ahead of you, rather.
Yep.
He did go 4-1 because he won with the flesh.
He won with the flesh.
He won with the flesh. You took the Giants. You homer. And
I really thought they were going to win. So.
Yeah, I kind of thought they were too. I went 5-0. The flesh and the Raiders getting it done for me.
Yep.
So I'm 9-1 right now. So 2 games ahead of Harry, 3 games ahead of you. The coin is in last, another 2 and 3 weeks. So the coin is 4-6.
There you go.
So as it should be. So this week, I guess we're going with the 5 we discussed.
We're going with the 5. He picked the 5, and I got his picks too. So.
Oh, you have his picks. All right.
Picks.
Now here's the rule. As you know, you longtime listeners, we flip a coin to pick games. If you don't show up for the podcast, you get the coin's picks for that week. So we are going to enforce that rule, although we are going to mark Harry's picks as well and keep track of them. And I don't know, maybe a coin flip to see which ones we keep. Would that be fair?
Would be fair.
Really?
Let's see how different they are.
Okay,
you know?
That's a good idea.
Let's see how different they are, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so week 1 is going to be the pretty lousy Atlanta Falcons against who knows who they are, New York Football Giants. I'll let you pick first.
I'm going to take the Giants on this one. It's the
Giants.
Giants' home game. The Falcons look like crap. I mean, which is pretty much a recipe for the Giants to lose, I would say. But they're retiring Eli Manning's jersey number at halftime. So it's going to be a big, emotional day, if you will, a little big celebratory day. So I'm going with the Giants.
All right. Yeah, maybe some of that Manning magic will rub off.
Sure. There's going to be a ton of people in the stadium, So.
Sure.
Ex-players and so on.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to take the Giants, too. What is Harry's actual pick?
Harry picked the Giants.
Pick the Giants. Okay.
He picked the Giants, yeah.
So I'm going to put that in parentheses. And then we'll flip the old coin, which comes up tails, which is the away team.
Coin's going with the Falcons.
So the coin is going with ATL. And I'll put the ATL in Harry's box, too, just to remind me.
There you go.
All right, next up is the Jets versus Denver. I don't think the Jets can really score on Denver. I'm hoping they put something together this week. But what else does Denver have going for them other than defense?
Right.
This could be like a 9-6 game or 10-7, something like that,
It could be interesting, yeah.
It could be a 10-7 in either direction, though.
Right.
But I think it's going to take a couple of more weeks before Zach Wilson gets it together. So I'm going to go with Denver.
I'll make it short and simple for you. Broncos.
Harry says
Broncos. I'll give you. Harry lives in Denver. What do you think?
Well, I figured, and he hates the Jets, so he professes that he doesn't, but he does. Coin says heads, which is the home team, so
Broncos.
We all go with Denver.
Broncos across the board.
All right, Green Bay in San Francisco.
Is it Sunday night?
Bad. Green Bay's look good. San Francisco looked really good. Didn't look so great against Philly. Tough call. I'll let you go. Well, how about what's Harry's pick?
Harry's pick is the 49ers.
Okay, so he's going to take San Francisco. And let's do the coin. Is the away team. Coin says Green Bay.
There you go.
So Harry's coin pick is Green Bay. I don't know. You want to go first?
Look at the jersey I'm wearing.
Green Bay. Okay.
There you go. What do you think? Toughie for you?
I got a couple games to play with. Green Bay, week 1 was an anomaly. Are they ready to roll now? Are they just going to start rolling? Detroit, I don't know. Detroit's, they got a new coach, right? They're tough as nails.
Detroit's better than they've been.
Better than they've been.
Is Detroit San Francisco? No. I don't think by any means this is going to be a blowout.
No, I don't
but
think so either.
I think the Pack can win.
All right. I'm going to take San Francisco.
There you go.
Because I think they were a much better team. But they had, talk about injuries, they got destroyed last year.
Yep.
So
they did. Decimated.
I think they're a good team. Yeah. All right. Tampa Bay at the Rams.
Tampa Bay.
Anybody want to take the Rams?
You know what?
You're tempted, aren't you?
I think this is going to be a good game. I think Aaron Donald is going to have some fun with Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I think the Bucs get it done.
I tend to agree. I think the way to beat Brady, anytime he's ever been beaten, is you just got to punch him in the mouth.
Yep.
But I think I'm going to take Tampa Bay as well.
Harry does as well.
All right. And the coin / Harry says heads. Rams.
There you go.
So 3 games different between the coin and Harry.
There you go.
We're going to have to figure out some way to...
Well, it'll be interesting.
I like Harry a lot more this year than I did at the beginning of... I mean, I know him more. It's not that I didn't like him, but I know him more. So I'm more tempted to let him have his picks, even though he didn't show up. But the rules are the rules.
Rules are the rules. Yeah.
And the point is, you got to show up, or else you get the coin. That's what. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Maybe we'll do a coin flip. All right, and maybe this is going to be an interesting game. To me, it's interesting because it's in the NFC East, and it has to do with what affected the Giants, one of our teams that we know and love here in this program. And it's Philly and Dallas. Philly visiting Dallas. So to me, it's interesting. There weren't a whole lot of other games. There were a couple other games that might be better games, but this one certainly has a lot of consequence given that division and the fact that the Giants should have a win over Atlanta this week. So they could be in first place.
It could be.
Or at least tied for it.
Right.
So I'm going to take Dallas.
As much as you know me, and anybody listening can figure out, it's going to pain me to say this, but Dallas is winning this game.
Yeah, well, this has got to be a tough pick for you either way because they're both giant rivals. But you'd probably rather see Philly win because Dallas will most likely have more wins at the end of the season than Philly.
Oh, sure.
So you'd love for Philly to get this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What did Harry say?
Harry said Dallas as well.
Okay. And the old coin says tails. They like Philly. Oh, man.
Dave just waited and he said, killed you to say that. Yes, it did.
Yeah. All right. So you got Green Bay, Denver. I'm sorry. The Giants, Denver, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and Dallas.
Yep.
I have Giants, Denver, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, and Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Coin / Harry, Atlanta, Denver, Green Bay, the Rams, and Philly. Harry's actual picks are completely in line with mine.
Right. There you go.
So he and I will either be equal after this week, or if we make him take the coins picks, we'll keep track of both. And then we'll wait till the end of the season. And if he's ahead of me, then I'll call in. That would be the dick move.
There you go.
Yeah, well, remember week 3 when you weren't here? Those picks don't count. I come in second. I'm fully expecting to lose to you again, but I'm coming in second. All right, we'll keep track of both, and maybe we'll make him. I don't know. Do we give him a choice? Well, maybe we'll make him do something. Because the games will be over. He'll know which ones he wants.
He'll know which ones he wants by then. We'll have to do something before the game's on Sunday. So I'll be with him before the game's on Sunday. So
All right, I will. You know what? I will let you. You have to get a commitment from him, which one he wants. I guess it'd be all right if he picks either one. We'll just throw the rules out the window.
We'll throw it for this one shot. We'll throw it because it involves an infant. So we'll throw the rules
it's not
out.
like he's.
It's not like he had to go to a bar and have a couple beers and
right.
blow it off. So.
Although, what did you point out before we came on the air about? This is the 1 year anniversary by date is in between this week's show and last week's show.
Yes, this is
our
52nd show. And if you don't include special shows, we've done about 10 special shows too. Because if you count them, we've done like 62 shows. But
the regular weekly
podcast,
we've done a year's worth.
We've done 52 at this point. Next Wednesday will be our 53rd show. Our 1 year anniversary falls between today and next Wednesday. So we're not at a year yet, but we'll be just beyond a year next Wednesday. So, and ironically,
we're 52 weeks.
We're 52 weeks.
Like we can't.
It's our 52nd show at 51 and a half weeks. We'll say.
Right. Because we can't. Wednesday doesn't fall on the same dates.
Right.
Year after year.
Right.
Only between. What is it? February and March, right?
Right. Exactly.
So for my money, we've been on the air for a year.
Right.
We've done 52 shows.
Right.
And as you were pointing out, the first show we did, one of us was missing.
Harry was missing.
And it's the same guy who's missing now.
Right.
On our 52nd show.
And those were the picks that night was the inaugural Beaten by the Coin. And on that show, we decided that since he missed it, he has to go with the Coin's picks. That's where the rule came from.
That's the rule. You go on our website and look at the blog, and that's the rule. And now here we are 1 year later, 52 shows later, let's say, and he's bailed out again. Strong for me. That's a strong case to make for making him take the pick, the Coin's picks.
That's funny.
But he could go 5-0 with the Coin's picks.
He could. Dave actually wrote in his picks too. So,
all right, let's write down Dave's picks.
Let's write down Dave's picks. Let's just see how well Dave does this week. He has the same picks as me except for the Rams.
Giants, Broncos, Packers, Rams, and the Cowboys.
Dave, I'm shocked you took the boys.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
But cool. All right.
That's kind of the New England, Miami that I had last week.
Right.
Although, it really didn't matter to me because I didn't expect the Jets to win anything this season anyway.
Exactly. So I don't expect the Giants to win anything. I just hope that they would have improved. So, and you know what? Maybe they did a little bit on offense. The offensive line actually did give Daniel Jones more time last week than I thought they did in the last 2 years. But it's the defense. But we won't get back into that now. So.
They have potential for improvement. Let's say that.
Absolutely. All right. Cool. All right. That brings us to our top 10 list. Shall we do it?
Yeah. Weird top 10 list.
Strange top 10 list.
We decided last week after the show that we were going to do the 10 best performance through the first 2 weeks of the season in the NFL.
Yep, 10 best performances through the first 2 weeks overall. Through the first 2 weeks.
Could be individual, could be team performance, offense or defense or something like that. Could be anything.
Yep.
And I kind of was thinking, well, I'm just going to take the best, the 10 things that I think are the best, and I'm not going to rank them 1 through 10.
Right.
I'm just going to name the 10 best because I don't see how to rank them because it's apples to oranges.
Right. Well, it's perception, right? It's what you think is best. If you think that, this quarterback played better than that, what he did at his position was better than what that running back did at his position, then he's
that's not how I looked at it.
I know. You can look at it both ways. I'm just saying. But in order for our lists to work, and we've done different lists. We've done the best teams, not the best teams, but the best positions of the Yankees, the best positions of the Mets, the best the best players of all time at each position overall. And it's hard to rank them because what we do in our lists, how we do this is we'll come up with 10. You know, we list 10 and we rank them 1 through 10. And whatever we rank number 1 gets 10 points. And whatever we rank number 10 gets 1 point and everything in between. And then we add them all up and whoever has the most points.
15 plus every
right,
week.
Exactly. So whoever has the most points is number 1. Whoever has the least points, you know, that fits into the top 10, even if it winds up being 12 or 15 or whatever. But that's how we do it. So doing it the way Pete just described wouldn't really work that well because there's no ranking to it. There's no points associated with each. So we had to manipulate it a little bit. So
we ended up with what, 12?
We ended up with 12.
Two number 10s and two
I
number
ranked
5s.
mine. Harry ranked his. Pete, through back and forth, we were able to rank his as well. So
yeah, you
so
could have thrown a darts at mine to rank who was, because I really wasn't thinking of it that way.
Right.
I don't know how I would quantify, you know.
And a couple of them you could have thrown a dart too. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
But in any event,
I did pick. Well, I think we all had a defensive player.
Yes,
on our list.
We all had defensive players on our list.
Yeah. I just and I think I'm the only guy who had a kicker.
Yes, you're the only one that had a kicker. Yes,
who didn't make the list.
He did not make the cut. Yeah, there was 3 players that did not make the cut.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. A very interesting list.
So there you go. So this is the top 10 performances. There's not a whole hell of a lot to talk about them, so this won't be that long. But we'll rank them. Top 10 performances over the first 2 weeks of this NFL season. We'll begin with a tie for number 10, and that would be number 1. That would be the first number 10 would be Kyler Murray, right there, quarterback from Arizona. You want to give a couple of the stats you had?
Let me see. I'm gonna try and pull them up here. I'm not.
Well, I have it right in front of me what you said, so I can. He had 7 TDs.
7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They're 2-0. I don't have the numbers. I just remember them.
Yeah, 73% completion.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
His 121.5 quarterback rating, and he had 2 rushing TDs too.
Not a bad 2 weeks.
Not a bad 2 weeks for Mr. Murray. So there you go. So that's tied for number 10 is Kyler Murray. Also tied for number 10 is Mr. Bobby Wagner, linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. Bobby Wagner, let's see. Bobby Wagner had 33 tackles in the first 2 games. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice that. I had a different defensive player. Where is mine? I don't know what I did with my list. I'm bummed now.
Yeah, he wasn't on your list, but yeah, Bobby Wagner 33 tackles in the first 2 weeks. That's
Is that a sign of he's a linebacker?
He's a linebacker.
Yeah, so that's kind of a sign of a porous line. Much as anything else, that he even had 33 opportunities to make a hit because the front 3 or 4 was not stopping anybody.
Right, exactly. So there you go. So also tied for 10, Bobby Wagner. All right. Moving on to number 9, and number 9 I believe it's not a tie. Number 9 on his own is another linebacker, Chandler Jones, linebacker for Arizona, and he was on. Was he on your list? No, he was not on your list.
No, he's a sack leader, I think, right?
He is, yeah. 5 sacks so far.
Okay. Here's my list. Okay.
Here's your list. There you go. 5 sacks so far for the Cardinals in the first 2 games. So on that route, 5 sacks in 2 games. So you got to multiply that by 9. So you should have 45 sacks this year, right?
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, there you go. But actually 42.5 to be exact. But in the event, that would certainly beat Mr. Strahan and make you feel better about that whole thing, then, wouldn't it?
Slightly.
There you go. Anyway, Mr. Chandler Jones is number 9. Moving on to number 8 is your buddy, and that would be the one of the tight ends from Tampa Bay, Mr. Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, listen, what can you say about Gronk? I mean, I hated him because he was a Patriot and he was, whatever, but he's just so good. I mean, he's the best tight end ever, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't say ever. I think a couple others come to mind that
But is it more a question of they were just better, or they had maybe a little bit more volume? In other words, longevity, maybe a few extra.
Maybe a little of each. Maybe a little of each. But, I mean, he's certainly up there. I mean, we did our tight ends list last year, and I think he was number 4, and he's still playing.
Yeah.
You know. But
12 catches, $129, and 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a third of his catches are for touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, you know, between Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates and a few others, you know, he's got his work cut out for him if he's going to play for another couple of years. But
he doesn't quite have the resume,
right,
as far as the length. But
right.
I think if you sort of prorate things, you've got to put him right up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. You really do. So, all right. That brings us to, really.
But he's funny.
He is.
Kind of, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he was kind of an arrogant jerk face, whatever, for a little while, but I think
more of an arrogant jerk face for you than maybe he would have been to anyone else because obviously he was on the Pats. But
right.
There you go. So number 8.
Once you take the Patriots hatred out, then
then you're good to go.
Probably not that, but he's mellowed and stuff.
He's mellowed a bit, yeah.
You know, so
there you go. Number 8, Rob Gronkowski. This brings us to number 7. We're going to throw in our second quarterback, and that would be Mr. Derek Carr from the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr, let's see his stats: two big wins, an 817 yards passing, 4 TDs, only 1 interception. He's 2-0. Really great stats, really great kickoff to the season for Mr. Carr. And we've talked about this. We talked about this before when we were talking about the Raiders game. But yeah,
2 weeks he's got almost 1,000 yards.
Yeah, nice.
I mean that's ridiculous. And we got 17 games this season.
Yeah, exactly. So
is he going to throw for 400 yards every week? No,
probably not. But if he does, he's going to have 3,000 yards passing this year. So.
Yeah, well, he could have 5,000 yards passing.
Well, he could, yeah. But
I was
being a little more realistic. But
yeah, right. In other words, what is 3,000 kind of the benchmark of that's a good season?
3,000's a good season. 3,000's an awesome season. Yeah, if you get to 3,000, there are quarterbacks that get to 4,000 on a regular basis. If you can get to 5,000, that's insane. I mean, that's just
that's only been done a few times, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 17 games. Technically, you throw 400 yards each game, you're getting to 7,000.
So 3,000 is kind of like what, like is it like the 40 home run mark, or you know what I mean?
I would say 3,000. 3,000 is probably the 40 home run mark. Yeah, okay. That sounds about right.
So it's a really good season.
Yeah, it's a good season.
He could get there by.
He can get there by the end of October.
By halftime. I mean, by mid-season.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? He can get there in 8 weeks.
He could. He very good. Very well could. So. And there you go. All right. So number 7.
Mr. 7.
Mr. 7. I forgot that.
Mr. 7 is Derek Carr.
Mr. 7 is Derek Carr. All right. That brings us to number 6. Number 6 is the entire Las Vegas Raiders offense.
Spread it around.
Spread it around. The Raiders are having fun right now. The Raiders the defense isn't playing bad, but the Raiders offense is having fun right now. I would appreciate it fantasy wise if they get Mr. Waller involved a little bit more, but
okay, a
little bit more. But yeah, they're having their way. They're having fun. They're having a good. Had a good couple of fun games, and let's see what happens with them. So there you go. Number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders offense. All right, brings us to number 5. And number 5, we have a tie for number 5. Our first number 5 is everybody's favorite GOAT, Mr. Tom Brady, and I believe he's the quarterback for the Bucs now, isn't he?
I think so.
I think so. I think I heard that somewhere. Tom Brady, let's see, 655 yards passing, 9 touchdowns already.
Yeah,
he leads the TD passes category. So 9 touchdowns. He's having fun down in Tampa right now, as he has been for the last year and a half. But he's our number 5 tonight. Got anything to say about Mr. Brady? 9
touchdowns in 2 weeks. He's thrown a couple of picks, but look, Tampa Bay is the expected favorite, I think, right? To go back to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And until somebody steps up, and look, they could lose a squeaker to a lousy team or, something like that, or who knows. And, oh my gosh, is this the end? How the general, the story goes. got to get those clicks, got to write those outrageous headlines.
Exactly.
10 reasons why Tom Brady will not go back to the Super Bowl.
Of course.
But hard to think that Tampa Bay, again, knock wood, assuming everybody stays healthy or most everybody stays healthy or they have no more injuries than, say, the average NFL team.
Right.
No reason to think that Tampa Bay is not going to roll at least through the regular season and probably through the early part of the playoffs.
No reason to think that at all. Absolutely. So, all right. That's number 5, Mr. Tom Brady. All right. Also tied for number 5 is the entire Carolina Panthers defense. And this was one that, we talked about overall with everybody. I mean, Carolina's defense right now, they've given up 190 yards average in 2 games, less than 200 yards per game. And that's just remarkable. I mean, there's nobody close. They're at least, 30, 40 yards, I believe, over them. Their defense is playing really well right now. So, don't you think?
Who did they play so far this season? I'm not saying they're not good.
They played the Jets and they played the Saints.
Okay, so
I mean,
maybe their defense isn't quite that good.
Well, I mean,
they played
what the Saints did the year before, the week before. We talked about it before. The Saints did the week before with the Packers. You would think they would have been able to, do a little bit more than they did against the.
Yeah, what they put up
Panthers.
three against Carolina.
They
7 or 0.
No, 6 wasn't it? I just had it up.
No.
I'll have to look right here.
Let's see.
The Panthers. Where'd you go?
We don't know. We should have these scores memorized, shouldn't we?
I know. We should just know them off the top. 7 points. They gave 1 touchdown. It's 26-7. They were.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Listen, I don't think anybody expected them to be a stupendous defense. We'll see.
No, look. This is just for the first 2 weeks. We're not by any means. We're not trying to foreshadow the rest of the season here. We're just saying in the first 2 weeks, these particular players and staffs and units have done a really good job. That's all. So there you go. Number also tied for 5 is the Carolina defense. All right. Brings us to number 4. Number 4 is Tyler Lockett, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. Tyler Lockett, 15 receptions, 282 yards, and 3 TDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great season. And I almost put Russell Wilson on my list.
Yep.
Because I think he's got 6 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yep.
Whatever. Not quite as many yards, but I left him off because he's 1-1 because they're 1-1.
Yeah, they're 1-1.
Not that that's all his fault or anything, but there has to be some sort of a breaking point. And
sure.
I had Brady and Carr and Murray on my list, and they were all 2-0. Tyler Lockett. Lock it up.
I see what you did there.
I just thought of that.
I see what you did there. Lock it up. There
Trademark.
There you go. Go for it.
Yeah, great season so far. And listen, he could be, we don't know how good the Seahawks are going to be. Probably pretty good, but maybe obviously not as good as they've been in previous years.
Yep.
Although it's been a few years since their heyday, but he could very quietly have a stellar season on a, 10-win team.
He could. That sounds about right for the Seahawks this year. 10. I mean, I'm thinking if they're playing 17 games, that's only 10-7. I think that's still a little low for the Seahawks. I'm thinking maybe 12-5.
Could be. Who else is in their division?
The 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Rams.
Yeah, they could have 10 wins.
It depends on what they do against them and obviously everybody else. But
they could have 12 too.
They could have 12.
But Tyler Lockett should have a good season either way.
This is true. I think we can both agree that it's going to be somewhere between those two numbers.
Yep.
So anyway, all right. Number 4, Tyler Lockett. That brings us to number 3. Number 3 is another wide receiver in the NFC West, and that's Mr. Cooper Kupp.
Great name.
Yeah. And let's see. He 16 receptions for 271 yards and 3 TDs. He's right on Tyler Lockett's heels there.
Yeah, virtually identical numbers. Yeah. And who's more of a question marks, Seahawks or the Rams overall?
I think the Seahawks.
The Seahawks, right?
Yeah, I think the
Rams
Seahawks
should be pretty good, but they also have a tendency to kind of fall apart at the end.
Yeah, but they
But
also
they have one major difference this year,
and that's Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
who's probably itching for a chance to
absolutely
not be out of it by week 11.
6.
I was being generous.
But
yeah,
we all know that Matthew Stafford was a great quarterback on a bad team for so many years.
Yes.
And now he has the opportunity. And hey, look, Jared Goff's not doing that bad up in,
he looked pretty
Detroit
good
either. And I think the big difference there is obviously Dan Campbell, but we'll see how that goes as the season progresses and goes along. But as we get further in the season, I should say. But as far as Matthew Stafford goes, I mean, and Harry pointed this out too before when we're going up the lists. Cooper Kupp specifically is big time revived with Stafford. I mean, the last couple of years, especially last year, Cooper Kupp looked flat with Jared Goff. I mean, he just wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
It was, I think he had one really like crazy good game. Other than that, he was, barely used. But yeah, he definitely looks like he's revived, and not through any fault of Jared Goff, I'm not saying, but just he looks revived with Matthew Stafford, and that's a good thing for both of them. So,
yeah, Goff is a bit of an enigma. He's looked really, really good at times and not so good at times. I watched a little bit of the game on Sunday, and I forget who the color man was, but there was one play in particular. He said, "This is the next step that Jared Goff has to take." There was a play where he should have gotten rid of it, not thrown out of bounds. He had a guy who didn't have a lot of separation, but I forget who it was, said he's open. In the NFL, he's open.
right.
And Goff needs to let that ball rip.
Yes, I think that was because it was Monday night, right? Because it was the Packers game.
Yeah,
I think that was it Brian Greasy?
I don't know, maybe.
I think it was, yeah.
But
I heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, he said he's got to let it rip. He's as open as anybody else, and he tucked it back down. I think he ended up getting sacked or whatever.
He did. He wound up. He
said
had to pull it down, and
that's something he's got to learn. And when he learns that, he's going to be really, really good. He's a good quarterback.
What's the tight end? Hutchinson. He was wide open, and that's who he was talking about. He was wide open. And he should have the ball should have come out of his hands, boom, right at him. And
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. So
there you go.
I think both of those teams are going to be A-okay in the long run, but I think with Stafford, the Rams are going to be a little bit more A-okay, or at least a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I agree.
But they don't have as many years either.
No, exactly. So, all right, so that was number 3, Mr. Cooper Kupp. It's bringing us to number 2, and this can't be much of a shocker, Mr. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry. Let's see, what did he do? 50.
All right. You want to do his?
No, you go. You do it.
All right. So he's a double threat, which maybe people don't realize. So 52 carries through the first 2 weeks, 240 yards. Again, only I think it was 54 yards in the first week. 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
Pretty good numbers for 2 weeks, right? And that's what we're talking about, 2 weeks.
Yep.
9 catches in those 2 weeks for 74 yards. Didn't score, though. So 61 touches, 314 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
You'll take that every 2 weeks.
Take it every 2 weeks.
In a league that's run on passing, right? You'll take that. Derrick Henry's a throwback. The way that offense runs is something of a throwback. And it's really a question of, can you stop him? Yeah, we're gonna run him.
That's all you got to do. You stop Derrick Henry, and you put pressure on Ryan Tannehill, and you can beat the Titans.
Yeah, if you're able to get ahead and put the Titans in a position where they're going to be passing because they're behind by a couple scores, heading, let's say, into the second half or into the fourth quarter, you got a better chance of winning them. But if you're only up, let's say you're up by 10, or even if you're up by 14, all it takes is one Derrick Henry 40-yard run. And
you're not up by 14 anymore.
Now you're up by now you're not up by 14 anymore. Right. So
well, what I said though is you got to stop Derrick Henry and put pressure on Ryan Tannehill, and you can beat the Titans. It sounds easy, but it's not. Yeah. So that's the problem. It's easier said than done, and not. It's very difficult for teams to stop that train coming through. And Ryan Tannehill's no slouch.
No, he's not. He's not. He's definitely had a revival.
Sure.
Since going to Tennessee, and I don't know. They're an interesting team to watch. They're certainly a lot of fun to watch. Yep. Because it's not always what's going to happen.
Yep.
you know what's going to happen with them, and
You can call it, and it still happens.
it still happens.
You know, there was just like that old story with we talked about Vince Lombardi before. Vince Lombardi would tell the defenses what play they're going to do, and then say, "Go ahead, try and stop it."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
See if it's good enough to carry them anywhere other than some regular season victories. That's,
right. Well, that's the
real
thing. They
question.
got to get over the hump. I mean, they went to the championship game 2 years ago, right? So, they did.
Close.
So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Derrick Henry, number 2, and that brings us to number 1. And if you've been listening to the list so far, you can't be shocked that this one is number 1, and of course it's Mr. Christian McCaffrey, running back for the Panthers. 45 carries for 170 yards, and again another dual threat, same as Derrick Henry. Only 1 TD, but receptions, 14 receptions for 154 yards. So he has a total of 59 touches for 324 yards.
Yeah.
With 1 TD.
So it doesn't have the touchdowns that Henry has.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
you look at this, and because of the way they were listed, we say, oh, Derrick Henry, 52 carries, 240 yards. And then we go McCaffrey, 45 for $170. Well, $170 seems paltry,
right,
compared to 240.
Right.
I mean, and it's only 7 less carries, right?
Right.
So unlikely that, it's 70 different, the 70 yards more that Derrick Henry has.
Right.
Now, Christian McCaffrey could
80 yards.
80?
80.
30?
80 yards more receiving, yeah. And Derrick Henry.
And I was just talking about rushing.
Oh, yeah. Rushing, yeah. Derrick Henry has 70 yards rushing more than
70 more rushing yards on 7 more carries. So, McCaffrey could go on 7 10-yard runs.
Sure.
And catch up, which is unlikely. But 170 on 45 is not a slouchy number.
Not at all.
It's just 240 on 52 is ridiculous.
Right.
One is more ridiculous than the other. But when you compare the two, you go, oh, he only has 170 yards rushing. But he's got twice as many through the air on only 5 extra catches. He just hasn't gotten into the end zone.
Exactly.
You take this performance, either one of these performances, in a heartbeat. I don't care what team you are. Name any other team in the NFL that wouldn't take either one of these guys.
There's not one other team
over who they have
wouldn't
right
take.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely. So there you go. All right, and that's our number 1. Number 1 on our list tonight of top 10 performances over the first 2 weeks of this NFL season, 2021.
So maybe
Mr. Christian McCaffrey.
Maybe the running back is going to have a little bit of a resurgence now.
I'm thinking.
Right? They've been devalued for so long.
But if you got a running back playing at such a high level as Christian McCaffrey is playing at, as Derrick Henry is playing at,
what's his name from Green Bay?
Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones ran crazy the other night.
Yeah. We kind of put him up, sort of in that upper pantheon.
Sure, absolutely. So, any of these guys, it bodes well for running backs making a resurgence, and I like football like that. I mean, sure, it's flashy and it's nice to watch an air attack, and just quick boom downfield moving and everything else. But for me, grind out, and I'm not talking about 2 yards here and there. You want some flash with the runs too. You want them to break a couple of long ones, but let's put it this way: how about a balanced attack? That's what I like about.
Right.
If you can do it that way, then that's the way to do it. So
yeah, and look, I mean, even you can go back and look at, like run and shoot offenses.
Yep.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
We knew some of the names of those running backs.
Sure, we did.
Because they were still part of the offense.
Yep.
Even though they came to, Warren Moon came to the line and seemed like there was 5 receivers.
Yeah.
For every play.
Exactly.
But we knew who Lorenzo White was, and the other guy's name, of course, escapes me right now, ironically. But there's a couple of guys that you go, oh yeah, I know that guy, and they were good. So,
sure.
But yes, balanced attack. Like to see a little bit more of that.
That would be nice. So, all right.
Can I just do a couple of honorable mentions?
Go for it.
So, Daniel Hunter, Who was
Yes.
the guy that had 33 tackles?
Say it again.
Who was the guy that had 33 tackles?
33 tackles was Bobby Wagner from Seattle.
Bobby Wagner. And we had, of course, Chandler Jones with the 5 sacks on this list. Daniel Hunter, kind of a hybrid for me. 13 tackles, 8 solo, 5 assists, 4 sacks. So number 2 in the league in sacks, or at least tied for number 2. Pretty good. And I also put a kicker.
Yes, you did.
Patriots kicker. But Nick Folk, who's been in the league for 35 years, I think.
35, I believe so, yeah.
He's been around, right?
Yeah.
7 for 7 this year, but 3 for 3 from 40 plus,
right?
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Especially, and look, he's probably going to get some work because we're not expecting the Patriots to be a scoring machine. They'll do okay, but
I don't know. That one run from whatchamacallit? Oh geez, what the hell's his name? I can't think of it. But that one run for the touchdown against the Jets, where he just like pulled everybody into the end zone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I forget his name, but
whatever
I
his name is.
But they keep having plays like that. I don't know, they might score a little bit more than that, but
yeah, they might. They might.
So.
But I have a feeling Nick Folk's going to be busy this season. So and he's doing great the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. The only other name on the list that did not make it was one that Harry voted for, and that was Mike Edwards. He's on.
I almost put him on instead of Hunter.
Instead of Daniel Hunter.
Daniel Hunter. Yeah, because he got 2 touchdowns took both.
2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Yeah, 2 picks and 2 TDs from them. So. So that was a pretty good performance too. So there's everything. That's everybody we voted for. So
there you go.
Well,
listen, the honorable mentions were. There they are. Yeah, there they are down there.
Yeah, they're on the bottom there. So.
Yeah, good. Listen, this is good numbers from all these people.
Yeah, really good start to the season for a lot of people, a lot of guys, a lot of units, and it's shaping up to be fun. So unless you're unless your team's not doing what you wanted it to do. So, but in any event, and Dave just gave us the report. He's filling in for Harry tonight. Let's put it that way.
All right.
Yankees win 7-3.
Yeah, of course they did.
There you go.
Well, Texas is terrible.
Right. Well, they were winning 3-0 though at one point. So.
Yeah, I know, but I think part of the reason they're terrible is they have no bullpen.
That might be a reason. That might be a very, very, very big reason. So.
That's usually a reason why most teams that are terrible are terrible.
And they don't have Joey Gallo on the team anymore. So
that's true.
And it kind of helps the Yankees and hurts the Rangers at the same time. So.
All right. So Yanks have 9 left, right?
9 left. 3-3-3. So.
All right. Good luck. Good luck, guys.
And we'll see how they all go. All right. You want to do before we break it? Do you want to do one of your schedule anomalies?
Oh yeah, let's see. This one, let's see. Last year we did games on the road to start and end. Oh, okay.
What do you think? What do you got?
Well, this is something that has been discussed, and it's sort of I guess shouldn't really be a debate, but teams coming off a bye.
Right.
I guess it is something of a debate because okay, well, they're having extra rest, right? So guys that have nagging injuries getting a little extra time to heal up and that sort of thing. Other people will say, well, it can sometimes kill your momentum if you're doing well, particularly if you're maybe not a really good team. You're an okay team, but maybe you're on a little bit of a run. You've won 3 in a row.
Sure. And
now you have a bye. And then you're coming back against somebody really good.
Right.
Kind of kills your momentum. So
it does. I think it does. I do.
I think both of those things are true.
Mm-hmm.
I would think the momentum killer would be more of a hindrance.
Yeah, because one or two guys are going to have a nagging injury that needs a little rest, right? The whole team is on a roll.
Right. Right. Yeah, everything is clicking. You've got it together, and now we're just going to practice for an extra week.
Sure.
So this season, there is one team that is facing 3 teams coming off a bye.
Mm-hmm.
and that is the most in the NFL, and that is the New England Patriots.
3 times they're facing a team coming off a bye.
3 times they're facing a team coming off a bye. It doesn't say who. And of course, I didn't do the research and look at their schedule.
Go through it and figure it out. Yeah, I mean, it could very well be the Jets, the Giants, and the Lions. So.
Yeah, it could be. Well, the Lions are not a pushover anymore.
Yeah, that's just true.
Jets, Giants, and maybe
the Texans this year without Tyrod.
Maybe. So. On the flip side, there's one team that is facing nobody coming off a bye, and that is the Panthers.
Interesting.
So. We're going to see how the Panthers fare as the season goes on.
By not being able to face somebody coming off a bye.
And every team there, now you would think that would be probably in their favor, right? Because nobody's getting a break before they play the Panthers.
You would think that would be in their favor. If you look at it that way, you would think that would be in their favor. But it depends on the teams, though. It depends on if anybody's on a roll or not. So if let's hypothetically say they're going to play the Bucks at some point, right? And the Bucks are rolling, and then they go in and they play the Panthers. Obviously, they're playing the Panthers twice because they're in the same division. But they could be on a bye when the Panthers are not. There's no more divisional buys per se.
Right.
So whatchamacallit, if that's the case, if they played, if the Bucks sat down, broke their stride, and the Panthers kept going, hypothetically speaking, of course. That may help them a little bit, but that would be a minor infraction, if you will. But I think that you're right. It would probably help them more than hinder them.
Yeah, or you could have a case where maybe the Bucks take a bad beating from a team they shouldn't lose to, and the next week they're ready to destroy whoever is in their path, which happens to be the Panthers,
right? As
opposed to having a week to cool off, and they'll still be determined. It'll still be business as usual, but it might not be, well, now we got a chip on our shoulder because we lost to, New England.
Right.
Or,
exactly.
Whoever. And
exactly.
and now we're going to eat the Carolina Panthers for lunch.
Exactly.
So, again, it could go either way. Might not mean anything to anything. I would think, Carolina would get a little bit more benefit.
I agree.
New England's going to be facing 3 teams that have extra rest over the course of the season. And that can't be something that's going to help.
Overall, probably not a good thing. I'm going to take Dave's comment down off the screen. It's been up there for 20 minutes now.
That's all right.
So, but all right.
Did the Mets win?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no, but why don't we check just to see for shits and giggles, as they say. The Mets are, it's the bottom of the 8th. The Mets have scored 4 runs. But the Red Sox lead them.
They're down by 8.
They're down by 8. The Red Sox lead them 12-4.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to go with no.
We only like good news up on the screen.
Exactly. So in that case, the only other thing I got is just actually a little. I'll do it right. I'll do what we always do. I'll throw up the background.
Hockey news.
Anders Lee has been cleared to skate for the season for the Islanders. So he had an ACL injury, and he'll be skating for the Islanders this year. So there you go.
That's good news.
And I'll throw it right back. So that was the only hockey we had. So I just threw it right there. So.
Yeah, I didn't even look at hockey or basketball.
There's not. The next couple of weeks we'll be gearing up. There'll be a little bit more hockey starting and basketball starting both next month. So we'll look into them as we get closer. There'll be obviously still a lot more football, but we'll figure it out. So anyway.
Yeah, when does hockey start?
They both start in October, I believe, but hockey starts before basketball, but only like a week or two. I think hockey starts maybe like the second week, and basketball starts like the end of the third, beginning of the fourth, something like that. I get a look.
Was hockey's off season shorter than basketball?
I think they were about the same. Because last year was different because they both started late, right? But normally, I mean, they're starting their season when they would normally start their season, and I think they both finished around the same time. I mean, it was within a couple of weeks. So, I mean, they might be within. One of them might have a week extra or 2 weeks extra or something like that, but it's not like a huge difference. So,
right.
A little less vacation, a little less sitting on the beach for any of these guys. That was about it.
We're gonna be doing like 5-hour shows.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a full hockey and a full basketball. Baseball will be over.
Baseball will be done. That's the one thing about it. It's harder to do the shows in. Actually, no, it all works out because football. Before baseball and pitchers and catchers report, football's done. So
yeah.
I
mean, honestly, if the Yankees and the Mets don't make the playoffs,
right? It's not. I mean, we're going to talk about the playoffs, and we'll talk about we'll talk about the games and everything else. But we're not really going to get into talking about basketball and hockey much before the baseball playoffs and the World Series is done.
I think I can goad Harry into talking about the Knicks.
I know you can, but I don't think we need to.
That's 20 minutes right there.
So all you have to do is say Nuggets, and then we're good to go.
All I got to do is say something about Jokic.
Just say something about Jokic and you're good to go. That's it. So. All right. Anyway. All right. So we'll wrap the show up for tonight at that point. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And, of course, all of the shows are on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with a video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern Time. And for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. Plus, the show is now available on Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Watch a lot of sports. Have a wonderful weekend. Check out and see how we do with our picks, and you can obviously go to the website too and check out what our picks are and how we've been progressing along. Plus, you get to see my certificate for winning last year too, so that's always fun.
I made it myself.
You did. He made it himself. Yeah, and we will hold the over under for next week. We'll wait for Harry on that.
Yes.
That's
going to be a fun one. It might be the most fun over under ever.
I think it's going to be a good one. So
not that the other ones have been particularly fun.
You want to tell everybody what it is so they can?
Nope.
Nope. It's going to be a fun over under. So
let me say this: it's battery powered.
It's battery powered. So if you've been following along, you can only imagine what Harry would be saying right now. So in any event, on that note, enjoy your sports. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Peace.